Chapter 191 Opening the River Clams. The woman didn't hear her clearly and asked, "What did you say? Want some other fish?" Lu Mingui quickly shook her head. No, I just meant, you guys are even helping to kill the fish." The woman nodded. "What's so special about this? I heard that in the vegetable market in the south, they not only kill the fish for you, but also cut and slice it for you. And then there's the butcher, who not only chops the meat but also helps make dumplings. I wonder if it's true that you can just bring a bowl and eat your fill at the market." If she didn't know, then Lu Mingui knew even less. Such a thing is true. The woman shook her head. "I only heard that. By the way, you can just wash the fish and cook it. If you want to use Tetrapanax papyriferus, go to the pharmacy to buy it. Tofu is available for sale inside." Lu Mingui paid the money, took the fish, and then asked, "Could you tell me where this place sells old hens?" The woman pointed ahead. "There are a few shops over there, but it's noon now, so the food might not be as fresh as it was in the morning." Lu Mingui nodded. "Thank you." Only then did he pick up the fish and head forward. After walking only a few steps, I saw a sign at the last seafood stall. It had large black characters written on it, "Open River Clam Pearl." The large red basins next to it contained a lot of river clams, of all sizes. Lu Mingui then remembered that someone had mentioned that there were people here who could open river mussels and get pearls. I didn't expect there to actually be such a store. She looked up and saw that this shop also sold seafood, including fish and shrimp. They just put out a few more large basins of river clams than other people. She had some doubts. Could these clams really produce pearls? Then I looked at those red basins, which had various prices listed on them. The largest bowl of clams was labeled 20 yuan each, then 10 yuan each, and the smallest bowl of clams was 10 yuan for two. It's not expensive. Just as she was looking at it intently, a man came out of the store. "Open river clams. I guarantee you'll find pearls. We offer a tenfold compensation for any counterfeit product. If a pearl is found, we will drill a hole for free and grind it into pearl powder for free. Go back and apply a face mask or something, it'll whiten and nourish, it'll be great." Lu Mingui was somewhat tempted, but not for the sake of skin whitening. She works in the fields every day, exposed to the wind and sun, so she can't get fair skin even if she wants to. But if she could find pearls, they would be very valuable. Of course, it's only valuable if you take it back. She remembered Li Zian saying that pearls here are artificially cultivated and not worth much. But the Ming Dynasty doesn't have cultured pearls, so wouldn't they all be sold for silver if we took them back? I also thought of the pearls that Lu Yongyan took to Suzhou Prefecture. I wonder how they are now, and whether they have been sold. How about we open a few and try it out? Didn't this person say that he was sure he could find a pearl? While I was hesitating, the man persuaded me again. "If you drive a lot, I'll give you 2 smaller ones. You can take the clam meat home and eat it." Lu Mingui asked again, "Are these all raised by humans?" The male boss thought her way of speaking was a bit rustic, and suppressed a laugh as he said, "It must be artificially raised. Where can you find natural ones these days? Even natural ones shouldn't be this price." Lu Mingui ultimately couldn't resist the temptation and spent 30 yuan to get the biggest one and 2 smaller ones. That person did indeed give a small one. "Here, I'll open it for you right now." As the man spoke, he picked up a small clam, inserted a small knife into the clam's slit, and pried it open in one go. Then they started squeezing pearls into a plate. The first pearl fell out. It was flat. Then, with a clink, another crooked pearl fell out. Lu Mingui looked at it and couldn't help but feel disappointed. Why is it like this? There isn't a single one that's round. She knew that only round things were valuable. The man didn't even look up and said, "That's because you don't understand. These are all seedless pearls. Seedless pearls are like this, they take a long time to form and their shape is not as round. But these pearls, when ground into powder, are excellent. Look at those pearls with nuclei. They put a nucleus in a freshwater mussel, and they are round, but the pearl layer is thin. If you wear it for a long time, the wear and tear will expose the pearl nucleus. Even if it's ground into pearl powder, it's still not pure. Although my pearl is irregular and has many odd shapes, it is all nacreous layers. Look at its luster." As he spoke, he picked up a pearl and rinsed it in water. "Look, it's warm, soft, and has a deep halo." Lu Mingui was skeptical, but she leaned closer and saw that although the shape was not round, the color was quite nice. "It's pink with a hint of purple, really nice." The man added, "These are my own animals, raised by my parents in the countryside. I sell them as a side business, otherwise I wouldn't bother with all this. As he spoke, his hands kept moving. Look, isn't this one round now? It was a round pearl, but very small. Lu Mingui, watching from the side, chatted with him casually. Yeah, it's just a bit small. Is this clam meat really edible? The man nodded. Sure, but don't expect it to taste that good. If you want freshwater clams to taste good, you should eat those that have grown for 1 or 2 years. They have meat and are tender. The river clams here, especially the big ones, are usually 3 to 5 years old, and the meat is tough. And when you eat it, you should clean it thoroughly, and it's best to only eat the adductor muscle and the foot of the clam. These 2 pieces of meat are just a bit better quality and cleaner. You see, we usually don't eat it ourselves. Seeing his sincerity, Lu Mingui felt more at ease. If we don't eat them, will we just throw away the meat of these river clams? That's a real shame. The man shook his head. I won't throw it away. It can be used as fertilizer or to feed the ducks. I also raise ducks at home. As they were talking, quite a few pearls had already been unearthed, but none of them were of good quality. This is the last big one, the man said, making a swift cut. Let's see how lucky I am. Then I started exploring inside. Soon, he pointed to a protrusion and showed it to Lu Mingui. There's a big pearl here. What do you think? After saying that, he carefully peeled it open and squeezed it out, and it turned out to be a perfectly round pearl. Oh, Auntie, you're in luck. Is this one round? It's pink, and quite pretty. The man washed the pearl in water, and its color became more pronounced, with the pale pink luster fully emerging. Lu Mingui was also delighted. She took it and examined it carefully. This one was almost the same size as her previous one. This should be worth quite a bit of money. The man said with a hint of smugness, how about it? Not a bad deal, right? If you get this one, you've really hit the jackpot. He continued opening the oysters, and with each movement, more pearls fell into the plate. They range in size from as small as a grain of rice to as large as a lotus seed, and are mostly flat, oval, or irregularly shaped. The one in Lu Mingui's hand, which was large and round, did not appear again. In the end, about 30 pearls were found. Unfortunately, there were too few round ones, and they were all different sizes, so he couldn't even make a complete bracelet. Lu Mingui picked up all the round ones and put them away, about 5 or 6 in total, without asking them to be drilled. The remaining oddly shaped ones were all ground into pearl powder. The man even comforted her, saying, Auntie, you're really lucky. We've only opened a few, and we've already found a big, round bead. Why don't we open a few more? We should at least collect enough necklaces. No, let's make another single bead to match this one you have and make an earring. I see you're not wearing any jewelry. Pearls look good on older people, they're good for their health, and they look elegant. Chapter 192. Another door appeared. Lu Mingui refused. What did a country bumpkin like her need jewelry for? If someone sees this, it will inevitably cause trouble. If you really want to open river clams, you'll have to wait until you get to Suzhou Prefecture and see if the pearls have been sold yet. She decisively refused. I'm not opening any more, I have to go back, I'll come again next time. The man stopped trying to persuade her, put a small amount of pearl powder in a transparent, sealed bag, and handed it to her. Lu Mingui glanced at the sky outside again, estimating that it was already past 1 p.m. She didn't want to buy the old hen anymore, so she quickly went back to the White House. When she entered the White House, she was startled again. The original White House simply grew larger over time, but she didn't know why it grew larger. She also wondered if the house had gotten bigger because there were more wild vegetables. However, this is just speculation. But what she was about to witness truly shocked her. Then, 2 more doors appeared on either side of the door leading to the market, both identical white doors. Lu Mingui felt a sudden panic and paced back and forth by the door, puzzled. What was this all about? 2 doors, doors that look exactly alike. The middle door leads to the market, and the 2 doors on either side should also lead to other places. After thinking for a while, Lu Mingui quickly calmed down. She took the portable flamethrower that she had kept in the White House for self-defense before pushing the door on the left. Unlike the doors to a vegetable market, which require you to carry wild vegetables to enter, this door opens with a simple push. Then, she appeared in a house. The room was quiet and empty, with bright, transparent floor-to-ceiling windows, tall buildings outside, and a river in the distance. Isn't this the house we just visited today? Does the new door lead to the new house? Lu Mingui walked around the room to confirm that these things were real, and immediately became happy. If we can come directly, wouldn't that be even more convenient in the future? This is my place of refuge. When Li Zian asked her to get a card before, she was thinking that she didn't know how to get here, and she couldn't remember the routes at all, so she wasn't in a hurry to get water or anything like that. But now I find that it's right outside the door, so it seems I still need to get the card. After a quick look around, she thought of another door. Where does that door lead? Today I only went to the house and the farm. Could it be a farm? Lu Mingui walked around the house, touched the wooden hairpin, and returned to the White House. This time she was a bit bolder, but she still didn't dare put down the flamethrower in her hand. Fortunately, as soon as she pushed open the door, a cool breeze swept over her, confirming her guess. She had indeed arrived at the farm and was standing in the farmyard. Lu Mingui breathed a sigh of relief. If he could get here directly, wouldn't it be much more convenient to deliver wild vegetables in the future? At least we don't need Li Zian's help anymore. Then she remembered that Xu Yang was still there, and she didn't want him to suddenly appear and scare the child, so she quickly left. When I arrived at the White House, I was completely baffled. That's strange. Does going to a new place mean that a new door will appear? I looked again at the ID card, property certificate, and contract on the shelf. Could it be because I brought these things into the White House today? A property ownership certificate proves that the house belongs to you. The contract clearly states that he is also one of the owners of the farm. Is it because these two places have a connection with me that I can come and go as I please? Lu Mingui figured he was right. However, she didn't have time to think about it right now, and left the White House with the fish in her hand. This trip took too long, and Song Xiaoqiu was quite worried, feeling uneasy sitting in the courtyard. Seeing Lu Mingui come out, she hurriedly asked, "Mother, was the place you went in dangerous? Why did you take so long? If there's any danger, then it's best not to go next time. Even if it's tough for the rest of the family, we can't let anything happen to her mother." Lu Mingui thought about it carefully and shook her head decisively. "It's not dangerous, nothing will happen. The only danger might be that there are too many good things, making people want to spend money to buy them. For example, those river clams, I don't know why, just started paying money. Everything else is safe." Of course, Lu Mingui was still very clear-headed. She had only been to the vegetable market before and had hardly ever been in contact with strangers, so she naturally did not encounter any danger. But there are good people and bad people everywhere, so you still have to be careful. He added, "I bought some crucian carp, and I'll also get 2 pieces of tofu to make fish soup for your sister-in-law. Let's eat this today too. Your sister-in-law's portion can't be too salty, or it will affect her milk production." As she spoke, she remembered that Sister Yang wanted to buy eggs. She had 2 hens at home, which should have been able to produce enough eggs, but after they became financially well off, the family started eating more than they could eat, so they didn't have many eggs left. Even after giving them away or exchanging them for tofu, there wasn't enough for our own family. Sometimes we buy eggs from the market. Xiaoqiu, what do you think about Mom going to the village to collect eggs and then selling them? She still has a lot of money. The 240 taels of silver obtained from selling bronze mirrors and hairpins were divided among the family members, with 10 taels going to the remaining family members. Besides paying them for helping to dig wild vegetables, I also bought them roast chicken and rice wine during the busy farming season. 5 tables were set up for the children's 3rd day celebration. The rest hardly moved. Song Xiaoqiu didn't know why her mother had thought of buying eggs, but instead said, "Mom, I heard from the villagers today that grain prices have gone up again. Prices have gone up right after the spring harvest. Should we buy some grain?" Lu Mingui, the price has gone up again. Yes, Song Xiaoqiu nodded. Lord Jia said that the summer tax has increased again. This year, my second brother died in battle, which exempted our family from taxes, so we have some surplus grain. I heard that several families paid their summer taxes and then ran out of grain. Now we have to pay 3 more taxes, really. Lu Mingui also felt a little sad. If it were in the past, she might have said a few words. But after reading those historical records, I realized that the Ming Dynasty really had a tough time. She used to say that the emperor had actually hanged himself, which was really cowardly. Now I understand that in the face of natural disasters and man-made calamities, the emperor guarding the nation's gates and the monarch dying for the country are already doing their utmost. She sighed, "Mother, go to town to take a look later this afternoon." She doesn't need to buy food now. The food at the market is cheaper and tastes better. However, I need to buy some things and deliver them to Wang Lijiang. She's going to start processing the travel permits. Later that afternoon, she took her basket and went to town. Sure enough, prices have risen considerably. Brown rice now costs 4 taels of silver per she, a unit of dry measure, which works out to more than 30 wen, another unit of dry measure, per jin, a unit of weight. Salt prices naturally rose as well. Everything, from food to household items, is going up in price. As she walked through the town, pondering what to send to the village head's family, she overheard something. Chapter 193 The Death of Carpenter Qian. A commotion arose, and the townspeople all ran in one direction. Hey, what happened over there? Fire! Quick, put out the fire! Where is the fire? Fire has broken out on Shindong Street. Lu Minggui's ears twitched. Shindong Street. The carpenter Qian's family lived on Shindong Street. She naturally remembered the family that had killed Xiaodong in her past life. I immediately followed the crowd and saw thick smoke billowing from afar. It really was Qian the carpenter's house. The fire raged, flames soared into the sky, and burned extremely fast. By the time everyone arrived and started trying to put out the fire, it was too late. The weather was already dry, and there was little water in the well, so there wasn't enough time to fetch water, which led to the Qian family's house being burned to the ground. Fortunately, there were many people, so although the fire was large, it did not spread. The brick walls of the neighbors on both sides were only blackened by smoke. The Qian family members were dragged out of the fire and collapsed on the ground, half dead. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but were still shaken. He yelled at the Qian family, "How could you be so careless? How could the water suddenly turn on? Is it going to kill us? Your carpenter's house is prone to fires, so you need to be extra careful." Qian's coat was burned and torn, and half of his face was disfigured. His wife was holding a child and crying. It was the Qian family's grandson, who had also choked on the smoke and died. Qian Da finally burst into tears. My father hasn't come out yet." Everyone exclaimed in surprise, "Oh no, we forgot. I was wondering why something was wrong." Turns out old man Qian was still inside. Then another strong laborer went in and dragged Qian the carpenter out. Carpenter Qian's face was blackened by the smoke, and he had already fainted. A man went up and checked his breath. Then his expression changed. He's not breathing. In a moment of panic, someone shouted, "Quickly, go and fetch Dr. Li. The person is dying. We need to call drive." Li again. Dr. Li himself can't even get out of bed. Someone in the crowd called out. I don't know which damned person tried to assassinate even Dr. Li. Who else? It's none other than the wealthy Mr. Qian. Before he could finish speaking, he was stopped by others, clearly indicating that the matter was not yet settled. If the wealthy person who gave the money heard this, it would cause another disaster. Suddenly someone else said, Carpenter Qian and rich man Qian are cousins. Upon hearing this, onlookers showed a strange expression. Is there such a connection? This is really, oh dear, what should we do? Which village still has a barefoot doctor? Please come and take a look. An older person spoke up. I'm afraid no one will dare to do this. Seeing that he couldn't be saved, who would save him? He's just needlessly gotten himself into trouble. Besides, the Qian family is not one to be trifled with. Everyone fell silent. A woman clicked her tongue and said, this is really pitiful, how did it get caught in the fire? Qian Da suddenly gritted his teeth, his bloodied and mangled face looking particularly terrifying. It must have been Wang Zuzi. He must have started the fire. I'm going to report this to the authorities. Some people were puzzled and asked, who is Wang Zuzi? What grudge did he have against the Qian family that made him set the fire? A neighbor of the Qian family came out and said, this is a long story. You all know that the Qian family has always taken on apprentices, right? A few months ago, there was a young man surnamed Song who was an apprentice at the Qian family's house. He was almost tortured to death. Surnamed Song. Lu Mingui was startled. Her family's business was involved here. Then the man said, later, the child was taken home by his mother. At that time, the old woman threw a huge tantrum, and almost tore down Qian the carpenter's house. The crowd grew impatient. Get to the important stuff. The neighbor said unhurriedly, what's the rush? I'm about to say it. In short, after the Song family boy was taken back, the Qian family had no one left to do hard labor or act like a grandson. The family was thinking of getting another apprentice. He then veered off topic again. Tell me, everyone, the Qian family is incredibly wealthy. If you ask me, they could afford to buy just 2 servants. I just don't want to spend the money, I love to mess with my junior apprentices. Later, there was a widower named Wang Zuzi from Shaowangjuang. Somehow, he heard that the Qian family was recruiting apprentices, so he sent his only son over. I originally wanted my son to learn a trade, but who knew I would send him into a fire pit. The Qian family, tisk tisk, they make that child who is not even 10 years old move timber, and they won't even feed him enough. He has no strength, how can he move it? You could easily get crushed under the timber. At that moment, blood and froth came out of my mouth. The Qian family is full of bad intentions. Seeing this, they not only didn't call a doctor, but instead blamed others for breaking the wood. Tell me, what kind of family is this? Moreover, this child was Wang Zuzi's only son, and he was tortured to death at a young age. Don't they hate it? Speaking of which, this child is 5 years younger than the Song family boy. If the Song family boy doesn't leave, he will be tormented to death sooner or later. My neighbor had been holding it in for a long time, and today he finally got it off his chest. He had been fed up with it for a long time, but had nowhere to say it. To put it bluntly, the Qian family is not someone to be trifled with. Everyone who heard this was astonished. Such a thing actually happened. That carpenter Qian is a terrible person. This child is so pitiful. If it were me, I would also set fire to the Qian family's house. Serves him right. This is all karma. Some people worried, if this gets reported to the authorities, Wang Zuzi will be in trouble too. But some people say, the only bloodline is dead, why bother with all that? It's not a bad deal, at least 2 people were burned to death. There are all sorts of things to say. Only the Qian family looked ashen-faced. A fire not only destroyed the Qian family's property, but also killed his father and his youngest son. In the crowd, Lu Mingui looked at Qian the carpenter's dead face and felt no pity whatsoever, only relief. She had originally planned to do something for the Qian family before leaving, but unfortunately, she was too late. If she were to run into Wang Zuzi, she would give him some travel money and tell him to run far away. After this incident, Lu Mingui lost interest in giving gifts to the village head's family. She went and bought Song Xiaodong's favorite roast chicken, intending to tell him about Qian the carpenter's death. Maybe it can change his habit of sweeping the floor. Ever since Song Xiaodong returned home, the ground in the yard has been swept down by about an inch. This was all honed by Qian the carpenter. Lu Mingui hurried home, glancing around as usual along the way. If you see wild vegetables, pick a handful, if you see withered branches, gather them up and take them home to use as firewood. It wasn't until dusk that Lu Mingui hurried home with all her might. But then they saw 2 shadowy figures ahead. If she were younger, she might go up and ask for company, but she's quite old and has seen a lot of the wickedness in people's hearts, so naturally she wouldn't rush to chase after him. Instead, they quietly slowed down, falling behind at a distance. As darkness fell, the 2 people stopped in their tracks. Lu Mingui originally thought of just overtaking them, but then he noticed that one of them looked very familiar. Chapter 194 Another Fire. The more Lu Mingui looked at her, the more familiar she seemed. She thought to herself, isn't this Hu Kuihua? What bad luck, I see this woman everywhere. Judging from this, could it be that she's going back to her village from her parents' home? But the man next to him was not the jinx Song Daji. He looks shorter and thinner than Song Daji. Although it was dark, Lu Mingui was certain that she wouldn't mistake him. After all, they used to be family, so how could she mistake him? The 2 spoke in varying pitches, their voices carried by the evening breeze to Lu Mingui's ears. Brother Jinshui, don't bother seeing me off any further, we'll be at the village entrance soon. That's Hu Kuihua's voice. The man, known as Brother Jinshui, said, it's okay, it's dark, there's no one on the road right now. I'll watch you go into the village. Your man didn't even come out to greet you. It's a mess outside right now. Have you forgotten? A house in town was just burned down. What if you, a woman, encounter bad people on the way? Hu Kuihua smiled bitterly. Never mind that, that's just the kind of person he is. Besides, now that he has injured his leg, he is even less willing to go out. Jinshui suddenly became agitated. If you ask me, you shouldn't have married him in the first place. We were childhood sweethearts, but you married a peasant from the countryside for a few taels of dowry. Am I inferior to him in some way? HMPH, even if I wasn't as good as him back then, look at me now, in what way am I not better than him? Seeing his agitation, Hu Kuihua quickly comforted him, it's my fault. Back then, I believed his sweet talk and listened to my parents, which is why I married him. Back then, she and Luo Jinshui were both unmarried, and Luo Jinshui had been interested in her since childhood, but unfortunately, his family was poor and he could not win the favor of the Hu family. Hu Kuihua preferred tall and strong men like Song Daji, and since the Song family had some money at the time, the bride price was a full 5 taels of silver, which was considered high. Therefore, she naturally abandoned Luo Jinshui and chose Song Daji. But we can't say that right now. She simply said, but that's all in the past. Now I'm a mother of 3, so let's not talk about it anymore. Luo Jinshui sneered, stop talking. Why can't I talk? You want to build a house, but your family won't lend you any money. I'm the one who's willing to lend you money. And Song Daji, he's not a man at all. He can't earn any money, yet he makes you show your face in public. Can't I even say a few words to him? Hu Kuihua remained silent. Fortune changes every 10 years. Who would have thought that Luo Jinshui, who was originally inconspicuous, would make a lot of money after starting a business? Luo Jinshui stepped forward again and took Hu Kuihua's hand. Let's not talk about the Song family, let's just talk about the present. Kuihua, I know you have me in your heart. Every time you go back to your parents' home, you come to see me. You're still thinking about the past, aren't you? Besides, I've made some money in business now, so you might as well just get a divorce. Hu Kuihua didn't answer. Divorce? Is divorce such an easy thing? Seeing that she didn't refuse, Luo Jinshui continued, Kuihua, please give it to me one more time. If we do it several times, I won't ask for any money back. Hu Kuihua was reluctant. After the family split up, she wanted to build a house, not only a new house, but also a house with blue bricks and tiles. The only one of its kind in the village, a large house with blue bricks and tiled roof. But the family only had a dozen or so taels of silver, which was far from enough. To build a large brick and tile house, it would cost at least 20 taels of silver. She went back to her parents' home to borrow money, but none of them would lend her any. With no other option, she turned to her childhood neighbor, Luo Jinshui. As for why she borrowed money from Luo Jinshui, it was naturally because she could sense that this man still cared about her. That's the kind of money that's easy to borrow. But Luo Jinshui was a fool, so why would he lend her money for nothing? He found an opportunity to take advantage of the situation and borrowed 10 taels of silver. But ever since that incident, Luo Jinshui has been clinging to her. Hu Kuihua had no money to repay, so she could only make excuses. Who would have thought I'd still be entangled with today? She was afraid that refusing directly would anger Luo Jinshui, but then she thought that if it happened several times, she wouldn't have to pay back the money, which would be good. He simply said, isn't that a bit inappropriate? This is right by the main road. What if someone is there? Luo Jinshui said confidently, it's pitch black, where would anyone come from? There's a grove of trees over there, so there's definitely no one there. And the ground is covered with fallen leaves, so it's soft. Hu Kuihua, having given up all hope, was led by Luo Jinshui towards the grove. A man and a woman became entangled in a grove of trees in the wild, and soon their clothes were disheveled. In the shadows, Lu Mingui sighed. Why did this old woman have to encounter such a thing? Then I realized that Hu Kuihua had a childhood sweetheart before she married Song Daji. Oh, I really don't know. She was originally too lazy to care about this matter. After all, her family had severed ties with Song Daji, so even if Hu Kuihua cheated on Song Daji a few more times, it would be none of her business. Even if we ignore them, we can't let these two get away with it. Looking at the thick layer of dead leaves on the ground, she had an idea. She slowly took out her portable flamethrower and quietly walked over. Perhaps because they were a little excited, or because they were convinced that no one was coming into the woods at this time, they did not notice Lu Mingui's movements. Lu Mingui spotted a suitable spot, stood still, and pressed the switch. Click, sizzle, the blue flames shot out far, burning the withered leaves and grass on the ground, and then burning the two people who were entangled. Ah! Fire! Fire! How did it catch fire? Where did the fire come from? Blue, could it be Will-o'-the-Wisp? The two of them, disregarding everything else, hurriedly took off their burning clothes. His hair was on fire, and there was no water nearby, so he had no choice but to roll on the ground and bury his head in the soil. After all that commotion, he was covered in dust and dirt, looking no different from a ghost. Fortunately, the fire was finally put out. Lu Mingui, however, had already quickened his pace back to the village, shouting, "There's a fire in the woods at the village entrance. Everyone, go put out the fire. The villagers under the big locust tree had finished their dinner and were idling around when they heard this, so they all looked over. In the darkness, the villagers could see a faint light, though it wasn't very big. Fire! Let's go take a look. The young adults and children ran the fastest, and when they got there, they saw that only Luo Jinshui was standing there. His clothes were disheveled, and half of his hair had been burned off. The villagers didn't recognize him and shouted, "Who are you? What are you doing here, sneaking around like this?" Ignoring the pain from the burns on his body, Luo Jinshui explained, "I'm from town, I was just passing through." "From town? What brings you to our village? Sneaking around like that, doesn't look like a good person. Arrest him." Luo Jinshui became anxious. "I really am from this town. My surname is Luo, and I run a pickle business." Fortunately, the people who came later brought torches, and the firelight illuminated Luo Jinshui's face, which looked like a black ghost, clearly. Suddenly, Song Jinbao, who had been joining in the fun, exclaimed from the crowd, "I recognize him. I recognize him. This is my maternal grandfather's neighbor. He even bought me candy before." Luo Jinshui was so excited he almost cried. This child really didn't waste his money eating the candy he bought. From now on, he must treat Jinbao even better than his own son. Chapter 195 Farce. The villagers were skeptical. "Jinbao, is he really your maternal grandfather's neighbor? What kind of pickle business are you in? Why are you heading into the woods in this dark? If you're going to drill, why did you set it on fire?" Despite his burns, Luo Jinshui forced a smile and said, "I was really careless. Originally, I was thinking of lighting a fire to see the road, but who knew it would start burning?" The villagers, seeing that he was burned to pieces and hadn't stolen anything, believed him. Someone kindly said, "It's burned like this, you should go back quickly." Exactly, all his hair was burned off. Others advised, "Why don't you go to the village to rest? You might get sick from the fever." "Yeah, I heard 2 people burned to death in town today." So Song Jinbao warmly invited, "Uncle Luo, why don't you come to my house for a rest? My home is right in the village, very close by." He remembered this person, he was quite generous to him. Perhaps if he offered to help, he could gain something else in return. Don't let the fact that this child is only 8 or 9 years old fool you, he's got some ideas already. Where would Luo Jinshui dare to go? He repeatedly refused, saying, "No, no, I'm fine, I'll be going now." Song Jinbao wouldn't let him leave, and nudged Song Yinbao, "Quickly invite Uncle Luo back to our house to rest. Have you forgotten that Uncle Luo gave us candy before?" The villagers praised them, saying, "Although the Jinbao and Yinbao brothers are usually mischievous in the village, they are kind-hearted." So Song Jinbao got even more excited. The 2 children stepped forward, one on each side, and carried Luo Jinshui towards the village. Luo Jinshui struggled desperately, cursing the Song Jinbao brothers in his mind. "Those 2 brats, I had just thought he was sensible and had gotten me out of a tight spot. But in the blink of an eye, he was roasted over a fire by 2 children. Putting everything else aside, he had an affair with Kuihua, so how could he dare to go to the Song family? When I get the chance, I'll definitely give those 2 a good beating." His resistance made the villagers suspicious again. This man is really strange. "Since you are Hu's neighbor and know the 2 children, why are you so scared? Yes, even if you're injured, you should at least rest for a while. After all, it's still more than 10 miles to go back to town. Could it be that they really did something bad here?" Then someone went to look around, which startled Luo Jinshui. Hu Kuihua escaped first. It wasn't that he was thinking of her, but if someone discovered Hu Kuihua's whereabouts and found out about this shameful affair, both of them would be doomed. He had no choice but to compromise. "Of course I'll go. Don't misunderstand, I just didn't want to trouble you." Even if Song Jinbao was a shrewd person, he wouldn't think that much about it. He even thought that he was pleasing Luo Jinshui by doing this. He quickly said, "No trouble at all, no trouble at all. Uncle Luo is like family to us." The 2 men carried Luo Jinshui toward the village. Luo Jinshui was already drenched in sweat, with villagers from Yongfang village behind him, all staring intently at him. He could only follow the 2 children, limping away into the night. The villagers then turned back, and someone asked, "Who shouted that there was a fire here? You have sharp eyes. I didn't notice. It was dark just now, and there were a lot of people under the big locust tree. It sounds like some kind of ante." Lu Mingui didn't go to see the commotion, she had already gone home, and no one knew that it was she who shouted those words. Meanwhile, Hu Kuihua also took a detour and rushed home ahead of everyone else. Song Daji was waiting at home for Hu Kuihua to come back and cook dinner, but she didn't come back for a long time, so he had to cook wild vegetable soup for himself. Upon seeing Hu Kuihua return, he immediately launched into a tirade of abuse. Did you go back to your mother's house to die again? You're never home. If you don't want to live with me anymore, I'll divorce you right now. Then you can live at your parents' house every day. No sooner had she finished cursing than she saw, under the dim light, Hu Kuihua's hair was charred black and curly, her clothes on her shoulders were torn, and the skin on her shoulders was burned red. He was startled. What's wrong with you? Although Hu Kuihua felt a little guilty, she had already prepared an explanation. On the way back, I saw what looked like a wild rabbit hole by the roadside. Didn't you say that if we blocked one end of the rabbit hole and smoked it out, we might be able to catch a wild rabbit? I was thinking that we hadn't had any meat at home for a long time, so I thought I'd give it a try. Who knew the fire would suddenly escalate and burn us instead? In fact, even Hu Kuihua herself didn't know where the fire came from. At the time, I was so focused on doing that I didn't pay attention to anything else. Song Daji felt relieved. He had indeed told Hu Kuihua how to catch wild rabbits in the fields. On second thought, I realized I was really a terrible person. Because of his leg injury, he hadn't been able to go hunting in the mountains for a long time, which made Kuihua crave it so much. Where did you see the rabbit hole? I'll go catch them tomorrow. I'll skin you when I get back and make you a padded jacket. How could Hu Kuihua dare to say it? She gave a vague answer. It's right at the edge of the village, let's talk about it tomorrow. I need to wash myself first, I'm covered in dirt. I'm filthy. Song Daji, unusually, felt a pang of pity. Go ahead, there's still some water in the jar. I'll go boil some water for you, you rest for a while. Hu Kuihua was impatient to talk to him any longer and turned to go into the house. Before Song Daji could even light the fire in the stove, he heard a voice from outside the door. Father, Mother. We have guests. Song Daji found it strange. It was already dark, so where did these guests come from? He threw down the fire poker and came out, where he saw Song Jinbao and Song Yinbao on either side, with a dusty-faced man in the middle. In this way, she does resemble Hu Kuihua somewhat. Their clothes were all burned and they were covered in soot. He didn't recognize her at first. Who is this? Luo Jinshui felt guilty and wanted to run away, but he was also afraid that the villagers would find out something. Now he only hopes that Hu Kuihua hasn't returned home yet, so he can have a chance to escape. Or perhaps Hu Kuihua has the ability to resolve this matter. Before he could do anything, Song Jinbao said, Dad, he's my maternal grandfather's neighbor. We call him Uncle Luo. Song Daji's eyes widened. Luo Jinshui. He had certainly met Luo Jinshui before. Luo ran a pickle business in town. I used to think he was short and unattractive. He asked in surprise, how did you end up like this? Suddenly struck by a flash of inspiration, he asked, was it also caught while catching rabbits? Song Jinbao answered for him, Dad, what are you talking about in your sleep? What do you mean by catching rabbits? Uncle Luo said he just wanted to make a fire to light the way, but he accidentally tripped and fell. I fell onto the fire, which is why I got all messed up. At this moment, Song Daji realized the crux of the matter. He recalled that Hu Kuihua had been frequently visiting the town recently, and that Luo Jinshui had previously shown some hostility towards him. He suddenly raised his hand and punched Luo Jinshui in the face. What a pair of adulterers! How dare you bully me? Chapter 196 Inkstone. Taking advantage of his height and strength, Song Daji struck first and knocked Luo Jinshui to the ground with a single punch. Although Luo Jinshui was burned, he remained agile. The two wrestled and fought, and for a time it was difficult to determine who was stronger. The children looked at each other, wondering what had happened, while Hu Kuihua, hearing the commotion, came out of the house. Upon seeing this, his face turned pale instantly. How dare Luo Jinshui? After doing such a thing with her, he still dares to come to her door. Her vision blurred, and she swayed precariously. She said to Song Jinbao, quick, quick. Go and close the gate. Song Daji's house was bustling with activity, everyone was playing together. Neighbors on both sides heard the commotion, and came to see what was going on, only to find the gate tightly closed. They could only hear the fierce fighting inside through the crack in the gate, as well as snippets of conversation carried on the wind. Within days, rumors were spreading everywhere. They made it sound very convincing. Aunt Zhao came to find Lu Mingui, mysteriously saying, "Have you heard about Song Daji and his wife's affair?" Lu Mingui shook her head. "I don't know, I don't care about his family's affairs, they're just an insult to my ears." Aunt Zhao said, "It's really too strange for his sisters to be joking around." She recounted the recent rumors circulating in the village. It was said that Hu Kuihua was having an affair, and the man was so audacious that he actually came to Song Daji's door and had a huge fight with him. In the end, Song Daji kept wearing the green hat firmly on his head. "Why do you wear it willingly?" "Because he asked that man for 50 taels of silver." Aunt Zhao said, "Are there really people like that in this world? Willing to be a living turtle?" When Lu Mingui first heard it, she was also somewhat shocked, but then she understood. Song Daji is really capable of doing this. In his past life, he was able to instigate Xiao Chu to commit suicide by jumping into the river, just so that the Wu family would pay him a few more taels of silver. When Song Xiaodong was killed by falling timber at Qian the carpenter's house, his only thought was not to avenge his brother, but to get money. These people have no conscience at all, they're so obsessed with money they can't get out of it. What is there that I can't do? The story was being told in the village, some true and some false. There are all sorts of things people in the village are saying. When these words reached Song Daji's ears, he flew into a rage at home. "Bitches, they're all bitches. A bunch of scoundrels who only know how to spout nonsense. When did I ever ask for 50 taels of silver? I only asked for 30 taels. Kuihua, go tell that man surnamed Luo, 30 taels won't do. What do you take me for, some turtle or tortoise?" Hu Kuihua was furious. He was willing to be a cuckold, yet he made her do this kind of thing. Is Song Daji even a human being? So the couple started fighting again. Meanwhile, life at the Song family's old residence was peaceful and stable. Song Xiaodong was calmer than Lu Mingui had imagined when she heard about Qian the carpenter's death. There was no great revenge to be had, no exhilarating feeling of finally getting revenge on someone who was dead. Instead, he said, "It's just a pity about that child from the Wang family, he lost his life at such a young age." Lu Mingui knew that Song Xiaodong was kind-hearted, so she didn't say anything more. After all, only she knows what happened in her past life. Having witnessed enough of the excitement of the past 2 days, she began to think about what gift to send to the village head's family. If they directly ask the village head to issue travel permits, saying that the whole family is leaving home for Suzhou Prefecture for no reason, they might be harassed. It would be better to just give them gifts, that would shut the village head up. However, Wang Lizhang's family was wealthy, and they were considered one of the wealthiest in the surrounding villages. He certainly wouldn't be interested in ordinary things. After thinking it over, he found out that Wang Lizhang had a grandson who was studying. It was said that he was already a student at a young age. Wang Lizhang valued this grandson highly, and if he could please him, the process of obtaining the travel permit might be expedited. After much deliberation, Lu Mingui, prompted by Song Xiaodong, decided to give her the 4 treasures of the study. Among these, inkstones are the easiest to buy. There is a Yizhou in Baoding Prefecture, and the Yishui inkstones of Yizhou are famous far and wide. The inkstone is made from purplish-gray sedimentary rock from the banks of the Yi River. It has a soft color, fine texture, and is moderately soft and firm. The inkstones made from these inkstones produce ink quickly, without damaging the brush, and the ink flows smoothly. Lu Mingui originally thought that giving such an inkstone as a gift would be quite nice, but when he inquired about the price, he found that even the cheapest Yishui inkstone cost nearly 2 taels of silver. 2 taels of silver is more than an average farming family would spend in a year. She was really reluctant to part with it, so when she got to the market, she asked Li Zian about it. "How does the pen we use to learn to write produce ink? Don't you use calligraphy brushes?" She had wanted to ask before, but was afraid of giving herself away. Now that she was more familiar with Li Zian, she had become much bolder. Li Zian told her, "We also practice calligraphy, we practice at school. Some people practice continuously and can even get certified." Lu Mingui found it quite novel. Then why didn't I use a calligraphy brush when I learned to write before? Actually, her calligraphy is not bad, but she hasn't picked up a brush for many years, so she must have become rusty. Li Zian said, "That's too much trouble. How much faster is it with a pen?" "What, you want to learn calligraphy?" Lu Mingui quickly shook her head, telling her not to teach her calligraphy anymore, as she had too many things to do. However, since there were calligraphy brushes here, she simply asked for them. "I don't want to learn calligraphy, I just want to buy an inkstone as a gift, but I don't know where to buy one. Li Ziyan pulled out his phone. Isn't that simple? Just buy it online. How about this one? As he spoke, he showed his phone to Lu Mingui. Intangible Cultural Heritage Natural Raw Stone Fine Inkstone with lid. This is 99 yuan, and it comes with a wooden box. The price isn't high, and it would make a nice gift. Lu Mingui looked at the screen and saw a picture of a black inkstone. The following line of text is what Li Ziyan just mentioned. Intangible Cultural Heritage Natural Stone Fine Inkstone with lid. Scroll down further, and you'll find a Buy Now option. This looks really nice. Should we buy it and have it delivered? Just like the cartridge flamethrower I asked Chen Xin to buy last time, it only took a few taps on my phone, and the item arrived in a couple of days. Yes, Li Ziyan nodded. Auntie, how about I take you to get a card today? Once you get the card, you'll be able to shop online on your own. Of course, he explained, I can buy it for you too. But as the old saying goes, it's better to rely on yourself than on others. Now that you know a lot of words, and you're proficient at using a mobile phone, everything will be much more convenient. Online shopping, navigation, making phone calls, a mobile phone can do it all. So you definitely need to get a SIM card. Also, once the farm opens for business, all the profits will be deposited into your account. That's why you absolutely must get this bank card. Lu Mingui knew he was right and nodded repeatedly. Then I'll have to trouble you again. What's the trouble? Let's go. As Li Ziyan spoke, he picked up his car keys and took Lu Mingui out the door to get a SIM card. Chapter 197 Giving Gifts. Lu Mingui felt that getting a bank card and a mobile phone card were pretty much the same. All you need to do is sit quietly in your chair and listen to the girl opposite you. However, the girl in the bank looked more serious, probably because she was locked in a glass house. Lu Mingui thought that no one locked up inside would be able to laugh. After that, a whole bunch of things were activated, and Lu Mingui was completely clueless. Fortunately, Li Ziyan was there. That kid was really amazing and knew everything. Even if he didn't understand something, he would keep asking the girl inside, not afraid that she would find him annoying. Then Li Ziyan asked her, "Did you bring any money? I just deposited it in my bank card." Lu Mingui was a little reluctant. She had put in the red bill, and all she got back was this thin card. It seems more reassuring to see red banknotes. She asked, "Do I really have to give her the money?" Li Ziyan found it both funny and speechless. What do you mean by, give it to her? This is called saving money, not giving it to others. Only by depositing money and having funds in your bank account can you make various payments more conveniently later. From buying groceries to buying a house, you can pay with your bank card. Do you expect me to buy a house worth 2 or 3 million while carrying several bags of cash? How inconvenient. The girl in the glass room was helpless. She had heard their conversation clearly. Having worked as a teller for so long, I've encountered all sorts of people and am no longer surprised. Some people receive their monthly pension and then withdraw it to deposit it back in, saying they want to check if the money was actually deposited into their account. And then there are those who don't know the passbook password and have to find it for them themselves. There are all kinds of people in the world. She flashed a smile, revealing 8 teeth, and asked the two of them, "Do you have any other business to handle? If not, please give us a 5-star review." Li Ziyan quickly replied, "Yes, we need to deposit money." Lu Mingui knew that she should save it, otherwise, how would she buy things online in the future? He had no choice but to carefully take out his banknotes, count them for a long time, and finally deposit 10,000 yuan. "My heart aches so much it's tearing up." Li Ziyan looked at her face and couldn't help but laugh. "The money in the card is yours, it's not like it's lost. What exactly are you worried about?" Lu Mingui grinned. She didn't know why she felt sorry for herself, but she felt sorry for herself when she saw that the girl had taken the money. Then the two of them went and activated everything they could. Tap water, natural gas, and electricity. After everything was done, I returned to the market. Li Ziyan first taught her how to shop online. Use the address of the house in Guanlin residence as the mailing address. Li Ziyan asked her, "Auntie, if you don't live here, you can write down your home address. That way, it will be more convenient for you to pick up your packages." He had always thought that Lu Mingui's home was in a resettlement house in a community called Yongfang. Lu Mingui thought to herself, if the address isn't filled in here, then it's even less likely that I'll receive it. She had nowhere else to go. I'll just write it here. Li Ziyan nodded. helped her fill in the address, and said, "The security guards in this community will deliver the package to your home. If you're not home, or if you don't hear him when you knock, he'll leave it at your door. Of course, you should also check the name when you pick up the package to make sure it's delivered to the wrong address." Lu Mingui listened attentively and then asked Li Zian, "If I want to buy something, how do I choose?" She glanced at it just now. It was all pictures, and she had no idea where to start. This is not like buying things in a vegetable market, where everything is laid out in front of you, you can see and touch it, and you can tell whether it's good or bad. Li Zian laughed and said, "Isn't that simple?" He opened a red icon, pointed to a long rectangular box, and said, "Click here, and you can type. We've selected a handwriting input method for you, so you can write directly. Try it." "Hey, yes, that's it, just write with your finger." When he taught the old lady to read, he taught her directly by recognizing the characters without teaching her pinyin. If I were to teach pinyin, I don't know how badly they would learn it. Fortunately, the old lady had some basic literacy skills, so she learned quite quickly. Writing characters is not difficult nowadays. Lu Mingui found it very novel. She drew on the screen with her finger, making a horizontal and a downward stroke, and a black horizontal and a downward stroke appeared on it. She continued writing, and the character, Yan, appeared on the screen. Then she could select this character. After the two characters, Yan, were typed, a row of inkstones would appear neatly on the phone screen. There are all kinds, some costing several hundred yuan, others as cheap as a few dozen yuan. Pick any point to view it, you can zoom in on the image, and scroll down to see more detailed information. However, these inkstones are so varied and numerous that it's easy to get overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices. Lu Mingui thought it would be better to just buy a Yishui inkstone. I just wonder if Yishui inkstones still exist in this era. She tentatively typed the three characters, Yishui inkstone, into the long rectangular box, and soon many pictures appeared. Although it wasn't as ubiquitous as another inkstone, and the pictures were quite simple, Lu Mingui was still very happy. It turns out that the Yishui inkstone still exists hundreds of years later. She decisively clicked on the link and chose an inkstone carved with a fish leaping over the dragon gate, which cost her a full 200 yuan. She thought it would take 3 days, so she didn't come to Guanlin residence. Unexpectedly, she received it the next day, and it was placed on the ground at the front gate. Lu Mingui opened the box and saw a beautifully packaged round inkstone. The fish leaping over the dragon gate on the lid was very three-dimensional and lifelike. It has some weight to it and looks quite nice. That evening, she took the inkstone and went to the village head's house. Wang Lizhang's family lived in a large brick and tile house. His family was large and prosperous, with 5 sons. Now that the family had separated, he lived with his eldest son. The most successful grandson was born to the eldest son. Lu Mingui knocked on the door, and it was Wang Lizhang's eldest daughter-in-law who opened it. When Lu Mingui met Wang Lizhang, she presented him with the inkstone. Wang Lizhang's eyes widened as he saw a round, bluish-black inkstone placed in the box, about 4 inches in size and an inch in height. The carving of the fish leaping over the dragon gate is incredibly lifelike, with exquisite detail in everything from the fish scales to the splashes of water along the edges. It was as if a scene of a fish leaping over the dragon gate was truly unfolding before my eyes. Although upon closer inspection one might find it lacks a bit of liveliness, its flaws do not detract from its overall excellence. It is so exquisite that it is definitely a top-quality piece. It feels smooth and warm to the touch. Wang Lizhang was delighted with it, but said, "Grandma Lu, what are you doing? Giving away such an expensive inkstone out of the blue? That must have cost a lot of money." His family was wealthy among farmers, but they were still reluctant to spend so much money on an inkstone. Lu Mingui hurriedly said, "Lord of the village, I heard that Rong Zhe has now passed the imperial examination and become a scholar. This inkstone can be considered as a congratulatory gift for Rong Zhe to pass the imperial examination and become a scholar in advance." Wang Lizhang was secretly pleased, but still said, "Rong Zhe was just lucky, how could he be worthy of a scholar's congratulatory gift? Take it back quickly." Lu Mingui's smile grew even more genuine. Everyone in the village knows that Rong Zhe is promising, and they all hope that he can pass the imperial examination and become a scholar. Besides, in a family like ours, this inkstone is just a stone. Giving it to Rong Zhe would be the best use of it. Please don't refuse. Wang Lizhang pondered for a moment, then finally closed the lid. "In that case, I will thank you on behalf of Rong Zhe." Lu Mingui felt a little relieved, and then praised Rongzhe a few more times before explaining his purpose. Chapter 198 Encounter. Wang Lizheng had already suspected Lu Mingui's ambitions when he accepted the Yishui Inkstone, and he was quite surprised when he heard the news. Obtaining a travel permit isn't difficult, but the procedures are cumbersome, requiring approval at each level. However troublesome it may seem, once you pay, it becomes much less troublesome. After clarifying the matter, he frowned again. Travel permit. To Suzhou Prefecture. The whole family is going. Old Lady Lu, I'm a few years older and hold the position of head of this place, so I'll be blunt and ask you a few questions. What are you after? Traveling thousands of miles with your whole family, not to mention anything else. How old are your new twins? Even if you can endure the arduous journey, can two little kids endure it? It's been a very chaotic journey. He had heard that trouble was breaking out in many places. Lu Mingui explained, it's not like we're leaving right now. By the time the travel permit is issued, it will be past summer, and the baby will be 5 months old by then. If we are careful, everything should be fine. She had considered this when she chose this time. We are currently in the Little Ice Age, and the weather will be much colder in winter. Back then, traveling was tough for both adults and children, so naturally, we had to think more about the two little ones. Therefore, you must leave this place before it freezes. As for waiting until next year to leave, she naturally wouldn't dare. By then, the drought will worsen, and there will be a locust plague as well. The locusts devoured all the crops, leaving only endless yellow sand. The people had no choice but to flee, and groups of refugees gathered. They might burn, kill, loot, and fight each other for a bite to eat. Countless people never made it to their destination, dying of thirst and hunger by the roadside, becoming food for wild dogs. That will truly be the death knell for these women and children. Therefore, she must get her hands on this travel permit, and she must also expedite her escape from the famine. If we leave now, at least we won't have to travel with the refugees, which will reduce the dangers we face by more than half. Lu Mingui spoke earnestly. Lord of the village, it hasn't rained much these past 2 years, and we expect the drought to continue. The harvest in the fields is getting worse year by year. Besides, my family only has the elderly and the weak left, and Song Xiaodong can barely be considered half a laborer. We can't even outfarm as much as others, so I reckon things will only get worse in the future. Fortunately, my nephew from my maternal family has already gone to Suzhou Prefecture, and everything is settled. So we discussed going to seek refuge with him. It's not just my family, there are also my eldest brother and second brother's families. We will definitely take care of each other on the road. The village head then realized that not only the Song family was leaving, but also Granny Lu's maternal family was leaving. He did know that in the past, during the busy farming season, the Song family had to rely on Granny Lu's family to finish all the work in the fields. If the Lu family leaves, the Song family will indeed face many more difficulties. Granny Lu knew how to plan ahead. Wang Lizheng sighed helplessly. So you don't want this family business anymore? I heard you just had a wall built in your house. It must have cost money, right? Lu Mingui had already prepared his explanation. The wall was built to keep Song Daji at bay. My daughter-in-law was pregnant at the time. What if she got scared? Wouldn't that ruin everything? Besides, where would I find any family fortune? I plan to have the Zhao family next door look after the house, and also let them farm the fields. Then, with a hint of sadness, she said, if we can come back in the future, we will. It would be like returning to our roots. If they don't come back, that's fate. Wang Lizheng didn't try to persuade her any further. There must have been a reason why she had made up her mind to leave her hometown. He said, in that case, I will go to the county government office. The matter of obtaining a travel permit required his presence, but it was not up to him to make the decision. He had to obtain a certificate first, then go to the county government office, and then it had to be approved by the prefectural government office. If this process is repeated layer by layer, it will take at least 2 months. After taking the inkstone, Wang Lizheng took it upon himself to handle the entire matter. Lu Mingui readily agreed and quickly thanked the village head. In addition, he gave 2 taels of silver as a bribe. Wang Lizheng weighed it in his hand. It should be enough. Go back and wait. With this matter finally settled, Lu Mingui happily went home. After that, the family shut themselves in and lived their own lives. The 2 children are getting prettier and prettier, with fair and tender skin. Song Xiaoqiu said, Tu Antoine and Yuan Yuan are getting prettier and prettier as they grow up, they're so handsome. The two children's nicknames are Tuantuan and Yuan Yuan. Tuantuan is the older brother, and Yuan Yuan is the younger sister. Their formal names haven't been chosen yet. Song Xiaodong got her wish and got a little yellow dog, which was given to her by Lu Yongkong. When it first arrived, it could only make ha sounds, but after a few days it learned to guard the gate. Whenever a stranger passes by, it twitches its ears and makes a still childish woof woof sound. Lu Mingui continued to shuttle between the two places, trying her best to keep her family healthy. That day, she went to the house in Guanlin residence, opened the door to see if there were any packages. She tried buying a copper hairpin online, saying it was an antique-style one. Lu Mingui discovered that anything labeled antique style was generally something that could be brought back to the Ming Dynasty for use. If the copper hairpin is suitable, it will be easier for her to earn money in the future. Unexpectedly, as soon as the door opened, a woman in a dress walked out of the elevator lobby and was about to walk to the other side. Lu Mingui met the woman once and felt that she looked somewhat familiar. She suddenly remembered that Li Ziyan had said that his parents had bought the house across the street. Could this person be Li Ziyan's mother? Lu Yunxi was also taken aback. She bought this house so that she could live closer to her ancestors. I just didn't expect to run into you so suddenly. She had just returned to China and was already thinking of coming over to look at the house and buy some soft furnishings, like a bed and a sofa. I never expected to run into my ancestor as soon as I stepped out of the elevator. At first glance, the old lady looked much like she had imagined. She was a kind old woman. Looking at his clothes, they were modern and his shoes looked extremely ordinary. But Lu Yunxi knew that their ancestor was no ordinary person. Without their ancestor, where would the descendants of the Lu and Song families be? But she dared not reveal the truth rashly, lest it disrupt some mysterious event, which would be a terrible mistake. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, and smiled. You must be my neighbor next door. I am Li Ziyan's mother. Would you like to come in and have a seat? After saying that, he pondered in his heart how to address his ancestor. She's not like that hothead Li Ziyan, who calls the old lady, auntie. Chapter 199 Buying Furniture. Seeing her kindness, Lu Mingui smiled and said, Yes, I live here. You're Ziyan's mother? No, Ziyan's mom. You look so young. She remembered asking Li Ziyan his age. He was already 28, 2 years older than Song Daji. But his mother looks really young, like a woman in her early 30s from the village. She is good-looking, with fair skin and a well-proportioned figure. Looking at her eyebrows and eyes again, they seemed somewhat familiar. Upon closer inspection, her eyes appeared to be misty with tears. Lu Mingui couldn't help but wonder, what's going on? Did I scare the person to tears? She's not that scary, is she? Lu Yunxi was standing at the other end of the corridor. She wanted to go forward, but hesitated. She felt she wasn't ready to face her ancestors directly yet. Although our ancestor looked like an ordinary old lady, she was, after all, a person from the Ming Dynasty. That's several hundred years in between. This is absolutely amazing. The ceiling light in the hallway shone directly on the old lady's head, making this otherwise ordinary old woman seem even more mysterious. Lu Mingui, however, was no longer going to stand there idly. Being stared at like that is a little strange. Besides, she was still holding the package in her hand and just wanted to get back and open it as soon as possible. Lu Yunxi, however, was lost in a jumble of thoughts. The old ancestor just praised her for looking young. If I remember correctly, the old ancestor is actually quite a bit younger than her now. However, he doesn't look young. People who work hard all year round and don't have enough to eat will never look young. Seeing that Lu Mingui wanted to leave, she finally reacted and stepped forward, saying, Grandma, please come to my house for a while. Let's get acquainted. From now on, our two families will be neighbors. Let's look out for each other. I don't know what to call him, but if he comes up and calls me ancestor, it's bound to scare people. Let's just call her old lady. Lu Mingui was carefully led by her arm towards 1102, and for a moment she was too embarrassed to refuse. The door opened, revealing an empty room. Lu Yunxi slapped her forehead in annoyance. Oh dear, I forgot, we haven't bought furniture yet. Look at my brain, I was so excited. She invited her ancestors to come over for a visit, but they didn't come with anything. Do you expect them to sit on the ground? Lu Mingui also peeked over. This house was much bigger than hers, and in the same way, it was completely empty, without even a chair. So she smiled and waved her hand. I won't sit down, I'm going back anyway. I can't very well invite you over to rest, I don't have anything there either. As they talked, they both laughed. After this ordeal, Lu Yunxi felt much more at ease. She took the initiative and said, "Are you busy right now? If not, let's go pick out some furniture together. You probably don't have any furniture at home, do you?" Lu Mingui did not buy anything, firstly because she didn't know where to buy it, and secondly because she didn't feel a sense of belonging here. She always felt like she belonged to the Ming Dynasty. Every time she came over, after finishing what she was supposed to do, she would go back to her work when she saw that it was almost time. Lu Yunxi had already made up her mind, so she took out her phone and made a call. After hanging up the phone, she pulled Lu Mingui downstairs. "Let's go, old lady, let's go pick out some furniture. I'll call the driver to pick us up. Please put this package back first, and pick it up when you come back." Lu Mingui was carefully but firmly helped into the elevator, without even a chance to refuse. Once they got to the elevator, Lu Mingui said, "I'm not in a hurry to buy furniture. No one comes to stay at the house." Lu Yunxi said, "It's okay. We'll buy it first and put it in. We'll need to ventilate it for 6 months before we can move in. Otherwise, it always feels empty and doesn't feel like a home." Lu Mingui thought about her money and wondered if the furniture here was expensive. If it's too expensive, she won't buy it right away. This money is to be saved as capital for future business ventures. As for the farm's dividends, those are money that hasn't been received yet, so they can't be considered one's own money. As they were talking, the two had already gotten off the elevator. The driver, Xiao Lu, had originally brought Lu Yunxi here. He had planned to get his car washed nearby, but he hadn't been able to get it washed yet, so he drove back. He was surprised to see the two of them, wondering why his wife had brought an old lady down with her so soon after going upstairs. She looks very ordinary, like an old woman from the countryside. However, the lady seemed to treat the old lady with great respect, perhaps she was a relative. Or maybe an elder. He quickly opened the car door and invited the two people into the car. This is a commercial vehicle, much larger than Li Ziyan's, and it's also driven much more smoothly by Li Ziyan. The air conditioning was turned on just right. As Lu Mingui got into the car, she secretly thought that Li Ziyan's family must be quite wealthy. Not only does the family own 2 cars, but they also have someone to drive them. Judging from Li Ziyan's usual demeanor, she didn't think he was from a wealthy family. At least he's not like those landlords, sons who always look down on people, chase cats and dogs, and even harass girls. This shows that Li Ziyan's family upbringing was quite good. Lu Yunxi and the old lady sat in the back seat, and the car drove directly to the furniture store. Throughout the journey, Lu Mingui continued to look curiously at the scenery outside the window. The endless stream of vehicles, the brightly dressed crowds on the sidewalks, and the towering buildings and shops were all places that piqued her curiosity. Lu Yunxi, however, kept secretly observing her. According to what our ancestor wrote in his notes, she should be about to flee the famine now, right? Or has she already fled? What can I do? If something is done, will it change the original trajectory of events? Just then, the driver stopped the car. "Madam, we've arrived at the furniture store. Do you need me to come up with you?" Lu Yunxi shook her head. "No need, you can park the car. I'll call you if anything comes up." Then he said, "Grandma, let's get off the bus." Lu Mingui felt a little embarrassed that she didn't need her help, since she could move on her own. She got out of the car herself, but did not correct Lu Yunxi's way of addressing her. It wasn't for any other reason than that ever since she arrived at the vegetable market in the future, people had called her by many different names. They use all sorts of terms like auntie, old lady, grandma, and elder sister. For example, Sister Yang is about the same age as her, but she calls her auntie, like Li Ziyan does. In short, call it whatever you want, they're all pretty much the same anyway. The furniture store was extremely luxurious. It has 5 floors in total, with a high ceiling in the middle. You can see the glass dome on the top floor from the first floor. Sunlight pours down from the glass, illuminating the inside. Even though it was broad daylight, all the lights that needed to be on were turned on. Lu Mingui looked up and felt dizzy. How can a building be damaged like this? Aren't they afraid it will collapse? Lu Yunxi pulled her forward, and there were escalators on both sides that could be used to go up. Lu Mingui had ridden in a cabin elevator before. It was a closed system where you could go up or down in the blink of an eye. But she had never ridden an escalator before, and looking at the steps that seemed to appear out of nowhere, she didn't know how to stand on them for a moment. Others gave her a strange look, then walked around her and stood on it first. Lu Yunxi felt a pang of sadness watching this. The old lady was all alone and didn't understand anything. How scared must she have been when she suddenly came over? Fortunately, I got through the initial hurdle. I wasn't scared to death, nor did I back down. She stepped forward and took Lu Minggui's calloused hand. Grandma, shall we go upstairs? With the help of her hand, Lu Mingui shakily stepped onto the elevator. The inertia caused her to lean back slightly, but fortunately Lu Yunxi was there and held her firmly. Lu Yunxi grabbed Lu Minggui's hand with one hand and held onto the handrail with the other, saying casually, "Hey, this elevator is poorly designed, it's too fast. Look, we older folks have to hold onto the handrails, otherwise it's really not safe." Chapter 200 Owes Money. Lu Mingui followed her example and grabbed the handrail, and the elevator steadily ascended. She replied shyly, "Yes, it's quite fast." Lu Yunxi breathed a sigh of relief and led her upstairs with a smile. There weren't many people in the furniture store, and the air was filled with the complex smells of various furniture, but thankfully they weren't strong. The home decoration sections are clearly defined, and they don't need to look at things like tiles, doors, or flooring. After all, the hard furnishings have already been installed, and the basic tone has been set. All that's left is to buy soft furnishings such as dining tables, sofas, and beds. Lu Mingui looked at the furniture and felt dazzled. There are many kinds of dining tables: solid wood, glass, marble, square, rectangular, and round. Suitable for both large and small apartments, it's extendable and has storage. The sofas also come in all shapes and sizes: fabric, leather, solid colors, floral patterns, and more. Lu Mingui felt a little awkward, standing there unsure of what to do with her hands and feet. This place is so big and clean. It has so much more furniture than Qian the carpenter's. No, the carpenter's house was burned down and there's no furniture left, so we shouldn't compare them like that. Lu Yunxi was in high spirits. Grandma, let's buy a solid wood dining table. It's sturdy and durable. What kind of sofa do you like? I don't think I need the real leather kind, I'll just buy this soft and chewy one. Small apartments should be simple and cozy. Wow, this chair is so cute. It's fluffy and pretty. Choose a mattress that is moderately firm, it's good for your health. She is now over 50 years old, but she feels inexplicably more relaxed around Lu Mingui. He seemed decades younger, full of energy, constantly trying out different sofas. He added, "This mattress is great, you should try it out, lie down and try it." Lu Mingui declined, saying, "How would I know about these things? I'm fine with whatever you like." "No, that won't do. I was thinking, since we're already here, I might as well buy your furniture too." Lu Yunxi sat on the mattress, slightly raising her head to look at the old ancestor in front of her. "So you have to be selective, pick the ones you like." His tone even carried a hint of childish stubbornness. Lu Mingui didn't understand what she meant at first, and only said, "I'll choose." She glanced at the price above the mattress, over 30,000 yuan, and gasped in shock. Goodness gracious, a mattress costs over 30,000 yuan. Even if she emptied her savings, she still couldn't afford it. What is this thing that's so expensive? It can't compare to a mat or a straw mattress. Lu Yunxi noticed that she thought it was too expensive, so she pulled her to sit down and said, "Take a look and see for yourself. There's a reason why it's expensive." The salesperson quickly came over to introduce the product. "This mattress sells very well. It provides excellent support and can evenly distribute body pressure. It's just the right firmness and the material is safe." Lu Mingui shook her head. "Girl, please don't introduce it to me. Even if it's safe, I don't have the money to buy it." The girl smiled and said, "It's all right, you can look around even if you don't buy anything. That's what we do, how could we not introduce it to you? Please feel free to call me if you need anything." Lu Yunxi stopped the girl. "I want to choose these beds, with matching mattresses, and the sofa has to be that kind. Are they all in stock? Deliver these 3 beds to Guanlin residence, and also this sofa. Do you have a matching coffee table? Oh, right, that dining table over there has 6 chairs. Send 4 more beds, to room 1102. The girl's smile became even more genuine. "You have excellent taste." The total amount sent to 1101 was 189,000 yuan, and the amount sent to 1102 was 350,000 yuan. "These are all in stock. I'll arrange for the warehouse to deliver them to you right away." When Lu Mingui heard that they were going to send her house, she quickly grabbed Lu Yunxi and asked, "Why are you buying it for me too?" You don't need to buy it, I have the money to buy it. That was, of course, just an excuse. She knew how much money she had, so she didn't plan to buy furniture here. It's too expensive here, she simply can't afford it. Besides, she even thought the house was good enough, she could sleep on the floor with just a straw mat. Lu Yunxi, however, was aware of her current financial situation. Selling wild vegetables is barely enough to earn a little money, let alone afford furniture. As for the farm that has been established, it will probably take some time before it becomes profitable. But the old lady wasn't the type to take advantage of others, giving her furniture for no reason might scare her away. She thought for a moment and said, "Consider this money as a loan from me. You can pay me back when you have the money." Lu Mingui became even more anxious, she didn't want to owe anyone money. After Song Chengye died, the family had no income, but she made careful plans and stretched every penny to its limit, without borrowing money from the villagers. Now, because of this house, I'm going to owe nearly 200,000 yuan in debt. How can anyone stand this? She quickly shook her head. Zion's mother, I'm not capable enough to earn that much money. I may not have the money to pay you back in the future, so I absolutely cannot accept this furniture. Lu Yunxi smiled first. You can just call me Yunxi. I have the same surname as you, Lu, and my given name is Yunxi. Speaking of which, the word, she, also has the meaning of, Gui, osmanthus. Aren't we destined to be together? Just don't call me Zian's mom, it sounds really weird. He added, Grandma, you don't need to worry about the furniture. I have nothing else but plenty of money. Consider this furniture a gift from me. Well then, I've heard Zian say that the dumplings and buns you make are especially delicious. If you feel bad about it, then make some dumplings for me, that would be the best thing to do. Lu Mingui was dumbfounded. No matter how delicious the dumplings were, could they compare to the nearly 200,000 yuan worth of furniture? Yunxi, if you want to eat dumplings, I'll make them for you. But dumplings aren't worth much. You could buy so many dumplings with that money. Lu Yunxi laughed and said, how can the dumplings outside compare to the dumplings you make? Alright, please don't refuse. Let's go back and see how to arrange the room. If there's anything we don't like, we can return or exchange it. Chapter 201 Maps. Soon, all the empty spaces in the house were filled with various kinds of furniture. Lu Yunxi helped arrange all of this. A soft, light yellow sofa is placed against the wall, with plush cushions on it and a camel-colored carpet underfoot. There are several potted green plants in the corner. The bedroom is equally simple and cozy, with a white mattress on a light wood bed. As for blankets and the like, I haven't bought any yet. The wardrobe was empty, but each room had a lot of pothos plants and charcoal bags. Lu Yunxi said that the pothos can absorb formaldehyde, and a professional team will be hired to remove the formaldehyde. Make sure you feel safe and secure while staying there. This wasn't the first time Lu Mingui had heard the name formaldehyde, and he felt a bit of fear towards this invisible and intangible substance. Lu Yunxi also bought some other small household items that are commonly used. Kettles, kitchenware, and even towels, all sorts of small items gradually accumulated. Besides these, the air conditioner and water heater have been installed. It's the height of summer now, and we can't do without air conditioning. Lu Yunxi was very satisfied with the house she had personally decorated for her ancestor. If we really wait for our ancestors to slowly save up money for renovations, who knows when that will take. A few days later, the two sat on the sofa in the living room, looking as intimate as old sisters. Grandma, look, now it feels like home. Wouldn't it be more comfortable for you to stay here tonight? It saves you the trouble of. She was about to say something about living a life of hardship, but thankfully she stopped herself and changed the subject. I heard Zian say that you like reading history books. Lu Mingui didn't actually enjoy watching it, she was just curious about what happened later. Now that I have the opportunity to find out, I should naturally take a good look. Lu Yunxi added, actually, I also really enjoy reading history books. Looking at it from all angles, the Ming Dynasty can be considered extremely powerful in history. Upon hearing her mention the Ming Dynasty, Lu Mingui immediately sat up straight. Seeing that she seemed quite interested, Lu Yunxi chuckled inwardly and slowly began to say what she wanted to say. Just think about it, how powerful the Ming Dynasty was. Zhu Yuanzhang came from humble beginnings, yet he was able to end the rule of a foreign tribe. In the end, Emperor Chongzhen inherited a dynasty beset by internal and external troubles, but he never compromised until the very last moment. Although there were a few incompetent emperors in the middle, the Ming dynasty was an extremely powerful dynasty overall. Then she added, however, the common people in the late Ming dynasty did indeed suffer a lot. Take our North China region for example, where natural disasters are frequent and people are suffering. If it were me, I'd have to think of a solution right away. Lu Mingui listened attentively and asked her, then tell me, how can ordinary people survive natural disasters and man-made calamities? Seeing that she finally asked, Lu Yunxi was secretly pleased, finally getting to the point. She declared resolutely, we must escape. In the late Ming dynasty, no place was absolutely safe. The only option is to escape. And it has to be a dynamic escape. For example, when there is a drought in North China, people have to flee to the south. First, we'll hide in the south to avoid natural disasters, and then when the Manchus enter the pass and begin massacring the Han people, we'll have to start fleeing again. This time, we're leaving the bustling town and escaping to the deep mountains. The plan was partly the same as what Lu Mingui had originally thought, but the word, massacre, still terrified him. Lu Yunxi added, actually, when I'm bored, I imagine myself as an ordinary citizen of the Ming dynasty and how I would escape. I even drew a map. To prevent her ancestors from not understanding maps, she specifically explained the map. He added, of course, we will definitely encounter other difficulties on the way. However, with the map, the journey of fleeing famine becomes much easier. This time, Lu Mingui was truly shocked. A map? You even drew a map? Lu Yunxi nodded. Yes, anyway, I'm old now, and I'm bored with nothing to do. Zion refuses to get married. If I had a child to take care of, I wouldn't be so bored. Then he got back to the main point. I drew a road from Baoding Prefecture to Songjiang Prefecture. In fact, she knew that her ancestor had fled to Suzhou Prefecture, but she was afraid that saying Suzhou Prefecture directly would arouse her suspicion, so she simply said Songjiang Prefecture. Songjiang Prefecture is present-day Shanghai, which is adjacent to Suzhou. Suzhou was called the Suzhou Prefecture during the Ming dynasty. Lu Mingui's shock gradually turned into delight. What a coincidence! The coincidence surprised her somewhat. What a coincidence! I was going to Suzhou Prefecture, and Lu Yunxi had a route to Suzhou Prefecture. If it weren't for the fact that she had spent the last few days with Lu Yunxi, and that she could sense Lu Yunxi's kindness and know that he was a good person, she wouldn't have been able to understand him. Otherwise, one would suspect that someone was setting her up. Unfortunately, even if it was a trap, Lu Mingui accepted it. She was too eager to see the map. Lu Yunxi's gaze swept across her face, and he said carefully, since you also like history, how about I bring you a map to take a look? Lu Mingui was just wondering how to bring it up when Lu Yunxi offered to show it to her. And she quickly nodded happily. You should know that this map is an extremely valuable item. Ordinary families simply couldn't get their hands on maps. Even if they were going on a long trip, the most they could use was a route map. The route drawings are extremely simple, only showing towns and post stations, without specific terrain or directions. If we could get a map, going to Suzhou Prefecture would definitely be much smoother. She looked at her expectantly and said, thank you so much. I was just about to take a look. Lu Yunxi, of course, didn't keep them in suspense. The reason I've talked so much today is so that it's natural to bring out the map. After all, this map was originally drawn by our ancestor in his own notebook. However, due to the passage of time, some areas on the map are blurry and unclear. In some places, we went in circles and took unnecessary detours. But overall, our ancestors were amazing. On the way to escape the famine, he even memorized the places he passed through little by little. Then, upon arriving in Suzhou Prefecture, it was copied onto a manuscript, allowing the manuscript to be passed down through generations. Later, Lu Yunxi obtained the manuscript from her mother and studied the maps of the Ming dynasty. She made some modifications to the old maps to make them clearer. Give this map to our ancestors, and they'll definitely not get lost this time. The map was quickly laid out on the coffee table, an A3 sheet of paper with neat handwriting and a winding route on it. Lu Yunxi pointed to the map. Look, this is the official road in bold, and the side roads are just thin lines. A house is a town, a place to settle down, and it has a name on it, like Shangxian. Blue represents rivers, and boats on rivers indicate that you can take a boat. These kinds of stones are hillsides. Lu Mingui looked at it carefully. It was incredibly detailed, containing everything. With this, you can truly achieve twice the result with half the effort. Without blinking, she tried to memorize the map bit by bit. Lu Yunxi noticed this and quickly said, "You don't need to look at it like that, this map is for you. Take it home and look at it at your leisure." The surprise came so fast that Lu Mingui thought she had misheard. "You're giving me something so precious. How can this be allowed?" Lu Yunxi took out more than a dozen identical hand-drawn maps from her bag. "Where are they valuable? I have so many here." Chapter 202 Menu. Lu Mingui was so surprised she couldn't close her mouth. "This, so many. How was this drawn?" "You only need to draw one," Lu Yunxi chuckled, "and then just make a copy. You can have as many as you want, they're all yours." After Lu Yunxi left, Lu Mingui stroked the maps on the coffee table, unable to come back to his senses for a long time. This map is incredibly detailed. They knew exactly how far they would travel each day, whether by mule cart or boat, and where they would rest. She couldn't help but wonder if she was truly a person blessed with great fortune. "I met Lu Yunxi and her son, both of whom are wonderful people and are my benefactors in life." She then looked at the cozy room. "This house is great in every way. I wonder if I can bring Xiao Chu and the others over. If we rest here at night, we can sleep more soundly and have more energy to escape the famine during the day. But can outsiders get in?" She didn't know either, so she had no choice but to go back and test the waters. Then they studied the house for a while longer. This house has many amazing features. For example, if you look up, you can see several white plastic sheets on the wall, neatly arranged, blowing cold air. I don't know where the cold wind came from, but anyway, it's not hot inside at all, even in the middle of summer. Lu Yunxi said that this is called central air conditioning, which can blow cold air in summer and hot air in winter. However, this house has a combined underfloor heating and wall heating system, so the air conditioner is just for show when it gets cold. Besides these, the house also has a machine to dry hair after washing it and a water heater, all of which require electricity. Speaking of electricity, Lu Mingui recalled another puzzling matter. The people here, whether it's Sister Yang or Li Ziyan, will teach her how to plug in the plug and turn on the switch. Lu Yunxi was the only one who repeatedly warned him not to touch the plug when his hands were wet. They also said that you must hold the plastic part of the plug and never touch the metal part, so as not to get an electric shock. Electric shock can be fatal. Lu Mingui was glad that she had rarely been in contact with electricity before, except for the time she cooked zongzi by herself using an electric cooker. Otherwise, it's hard to guarantee that nothing bad will happen. This gave her a feeling. That means people just think she's unsophisticated and doesn't know how to use an electric cooker or anything like that. Lu Yunxi seemed to know that she had never been exposed to electricity before. This inevitably made Lu Mingui feel strange, but after sometimes testing her, she felt that Lu Yunxi was just simple and kind. She decided to give up. How could she be on guard all the time when someone treated her with genuine kindness? A few more days passed, and the farm was about to officially open. The day before the opening, Lu Mingui took the opportunity to send 2 baskets of wild vegetables over as requested by Xu Yang. Xu Yang was somewhat surprised to see that she had come alone. "Auntie, how did you get here? This place is in a remote location, buses don't go there." Lu Mingui brushed it off and then asked, "Are these wild vegetables enough?" Xu Yang glanced at it and nodded. "That's enough, that's enough. By the way, you haven't seen our menu yet, have you?" He said mysteriously. "It's a menu we specially customized. In addition to a thick menu, there were pictures on the menu. Another item was a menu carved from wood, which looked quite professional." Lu Mingui looked at the menu and read aloud, "A green and white jade cup, what's this?" Xu Yang chuckled and pointed to the picture next to the dish name, saying, "This is it. Organic cabbage is stuffed with shepherd's purse and meat filling, steamed, and served with a special dipping sauce. There are only 3 in one serving." Lu Mingui then noticed that the dish names and pictures were matched, which was quite exquisite. But only 3 in one serving? Who's that enough for? She then pointed to a wooden sign and asked, "And what is this?" "Azure Spring Cloud Smoothing Soup. This is Malantu tofu soup. It has a light fragrance and a slightly bitter taste, which is perfect for cutting through greasiness." Lu Mingui clicked her tongue. "We've already eaten wild vegetables, what's the point of cutting through the greasiness? There's not a trace of meat." "Of course there are," Xu Yang said smugly. "There's plenty of meat. I have braised duck with asparagus, chicken wrapped in lotus leaves, and crispy willow leaves by the river." Lu Mingui hurriedly said, "I understood the previous ones, they mentioned duck and chicken, but what is this crispy willow?" "Willow branch," Xu Yang laughed. "Where does the fragrant and crispy part come from?" This dish is actually crispy fried small fish. Choose wild willow fish caught that day, and it'll be the length of your index finger. He stretched out his chubby finger and gestured. Then scrape off the scales and remove the internal organs, marinate it first, then coat it with batter and fry it in oil. You must use rapeseed oil, it will make the fried food even more fragrant. Finally, sprinkle on some salt and pepper. There's a specific recipe for this salt and pepper. It must be made with Sichuan peppercorns from Hanyuan, fennel seeds from Minchin, and sea salt from the Bohai Bay. The secret ingredient is dried tangerine peel from Xinwei, which is hand ground. Sprinkling it on the small fish like this is absolutely amazing. Guests first observe its shape, taste its flavor, then chew its crispness, and finally, all that remains is the word, fresh. And this fish is even more perfect when garnished with the perilla leaves you brought. The unique aroma of perilla not only cuts through the richness of the food, but also makes you want to keep eating it. Lu Mingui swallowed hard as she listened. She had never eaten Xu Yang's cooking before, but just listening to him made her realize that Xu Yang knew how to eat. Li Ziyan made the right choice in choosing his partner. She asked, "How about I deliver the groceries every 3 days from now on?" "Sure," Xu Yang said. "That's fine for now. 2 baskets are enough. It's a hunger marketing strategy. If we need to add anything later, I'll let you know in advance. We are in the early stages of our business, so we can't expand too much. If you ask me, your wild vegetables are really good. They don't wilt even in the middle of summer. Once every 3 days is absolutely no problem." Lu Mingui breathed a sigh of relief. 3 days was just right for her. He added, "Then I won't be coming when it opens tomorrow. I have a lot of things to do at home." Xu Yang naturally wouldn't make things difficult for her, so it was settled. He then gave Lu Mingui a plate of fried small fish. "Take this home and try it, and you'll see I wasn't exaggerating. And these vegetables are for my tasting. They're not as good as the wild vegetables you brought, they're all a bit wilted. But it's still edible, and it's organic. You can take it home and eat it." Lu Mingui was initially embarrassed to accept it. Xu Yang said, "They're all wilted. If you don't want them, you'll just have to throw them away." "Wouldn't that be a waste?" Lu Mingui thanked him and took the vegetables back with her. There are cucumbers, eggplants, tomatoes, and other common vegetables. Lu Mingui finally knows what organic vegetables means. According to this definition, all the vegetables and grains in her home are organic. However, what we grow at home is not enough to eat right now. She didn't mention it. The weather went from hot to cold, and August arrived in the blink of an eye. The soybeans in the field turned yellowish-brown, the leaves began to fall off, and the pods were not plump enough. Xiaomi, on the other hand, is golden yellow, which looks very nice. During this period, people from several villages had many conflicts over water. The Song family's twins grew more and more adorable, making the whole family swoon. Lu Mingui, however, often gazed at the farmland and the distant Songshan mountain, thinking it was time to leave. Chapter 203 Birthday. They were delivering travel permits that day. He said somewhat awkwardly, 2 taels of silver wasn't enough to cover the expenses, so I had to spend 3 taels more. We never needed so many before. Sigh, things are getting more and more chaotic here. Do you remember when I had Rong Zhe talk to you about this last time? Lu Mingui naturally remembered that about a month ago, Wang Lizheng had sent his grandson to inform her of this matter. The main question was whether Lu Mingui should continue to apply for travel permits, since the cost was too high. At that time, Lu Mingui said that he must get it done and that he should give the money to Rong Zhe. Rong Ji said that we don't need to give it to him yet, we'll talk about it after everything is done together. This shows Wang Lizheng's trust in Lu Mingui. The fact that they can produce Yishui inkstones suggests that the Lu family has some wealth. The reason I thought of the Lu family was because I already knew how much money the Song family had when they divided the family property. Later, the Song family spent money on building walls and giving the twins a 3rd-day bath, so where would they find the money? Upon hearing Wang Lizheng's question, Lu Mingui quickly gave him another 3 taels of silver. They also gave me 200 coins for tea. Wang Lizheng accepted the money without ceremony and then asked, "When do you plan to set off?" Lu Mingui didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked down and stroked the road sign, which listed the family's names, genders, ages, and so on. Each person's name was followed by a description of their general appearance. Even the full list of names was written down, except for Tuan Tuan and Yuan Yuan's names, which hadn't been written yet. The preface stated that it was about visiting relatives, followed by the official seal of the government, a bright red seal. After confirming that everything was correct, he replied, "I'll set off after the Mid-Autumn Festival." Wang Lizhang asked again, "Why don't you wait until the crops are harvested before you leave?" Lu Mingui shook her head. "No, let's leave the beans and millet in the field to the Zhao family." She once asked the Zhao family if they wanted to leave, but the Zhao family was unwilling. Everyone has their own aspirations, and we cannot force them to have them. However, given their long-standing neighborly relationship, she was willing to leave all the grain to the Zhao family, hoping it could help them in their immediate crisis. Wang Lizhang stopped trying to persuade him and turned to leave. The moon grows rounder every day. The Mid-Autumn Festival is here. The Mid-Autumn Festival was Lu Minggui's birthday, and she planned to spend it in Baoding Prefecture before leaving. Breakfast was longevity noodles made by Song Xiaoqiu. The noodles, which were of uniform thickness, were coiled in a bowl, with 2 leafy greens and a poached egg. "Mom, try this. It's longevity noodles. Each noodle is this long. I wish you a long and healthy life." Song Xiaodong touched his head. "I don't have anything good to give to mother, so I just wish her a long and healthy life." Man added, "I also wish grandma a long and healthy life." Lu Mingui laughed uncontrollably. Living to 100 years old is fine, but immortality is terrifying. She hugged Man and shared the fried egg with her. Shen Juya sewed a headband for Lu Mingui, saying, "When it gets cold, mother can wear it to keep warm." The family was enjoying a happy time together. In the evening, Lu Mingui's family members also arrived. Everyone came to celebrate her birthday. It was a rare and lively occasion. They all seemed to think this would be their last birthday in Yongfang village, with a hint of deliberate joy. Eating and drinking, exchanging auspicious words, it was another lively occasion. After dinner, Lu Wenqi, the second brother, hesitated before speaking. "Little sister, your second brother will not be going to Suzhou Prefecture." Lu Mingui looked over in disbelief. "Not going? Why, didn't we agree on everything before? It's almost time to leave, why the change of heart?" Lu Wenqi lowered his head, looking somewhat helpless, and, after a long while said, "I don't want to leave. The crops in the fields are ready to be harvested, and it's time to weed the graves of my parents. Every brick and tile in the house was repaired and rebuilt by my own hands back then. Little sister, I'm almost 50 years old this year, half of my body is buried in the ground, I don't want to go too far. If I were to die someday, I would prefer to die on this land beneath my feet." A sense of desolation welled up in Lu Mingui's heart. She could understand her second brother's thoughts, but staying would mean certain death. Who can withstand a drought that has lasted for more than a decade? Her heart ached. "Second brother, you. Little sister, please don't try to persuade me. I'll stay here to look after my brother's house, and I'll keep an eye on yours for you too. Go ahead without worry." Lu Wenqi finally looked up at Lu Mingui, his eyes filled with determination. He had made up his mind and thought it through. Going out might not be a good thing. Who knows what might happen if you venture out into the vast world? Lu Mingui, however, was still unwilling to give up. "Second brother, I've told you before, this drought has only just begun. There's still a lot to come, why won't you listen? If you don't think about yourself, you should at least think about the younger generation. Our lives are almost over, but what about them? Don't you want Yongwen to go to Suzhou Prefecture to continue his studies?" Lu Wenqi shook his head. "I originally thought I would have Yongwen take his wife and children with you. Who knew he wouldn't go either? Little sister, that's it. This is the path I've chosen, this is my destiny." Ultimately, I couldn't persuade them. The siblings could only sit in silence facing each other. The joyful atmosphere had long since dissipated, and everyone felt a heavy weight in their hearts. Only a few children, unaware of the adults' distress, continued to play and frolic in the yard. In the end, it was Lu Wenli who made the decision. "In that case, I will keep all the grain in my house. Wenqi, please take good care of yourself. If you really can't hold on any longer, come to Suzhou Prefecture to find us. Originally, I planned to bring everything with me, but now I've changed my mind and will leave behind only what I can." Lu Mingui also started to make plans in her mind, and then said, "Take advantage of these 2 days to dig a cellar in your house. I'll leave you something, the sooner the better." For the rest of the time, the men of the Lu family went to dig a cellar. They didn't dare to dump the excavated soil, so they spread a thick layer along the base of the wall and planted some scallions to cover it up. Lu Mingui then directed her elder brother to send all the pottery jars and water vats of all sizes from their home to the Lu family. Of course, all of her family's things were also sent over. Once all 3 containers for holding water were placed inside, it was up to Lu Mingui to take care of things. She also bought several large water tanks online to store water, and then she bought bottled water. The large vat contained tap water, while the earthenware jar contained purified water. They were only relieved when the cellar was completely full. Roughly calculated, it cost 3,000 yuan. Although this was a large sum of money for Lu Mingui, she felt it was worth it for the sake of her second brother's family. Actually, it would be convenient and cheap to just use those water-filled containers to hold the water. But after thinking about it, Lu Mingui still didn't dare to do it. Finally, he reminded Lu Wenqi, "Second brother, your family is small, so drink this water sparingly, it will last for a while. When you can't hold on any longer, come to Suzhou Prefecture to find us. Just remember, you can't tell outsiders about this, and you shouldn't tell the children either. We usually try to hide it a bit. In years of disaster, people's hearts are even more unpredictable, so we must be wary." Chapter 204 Farewell. Lu Wenqi agreed to all of them, and then went to see the cellar filled with water and food, feeling extremely moved. This cellar contained not only water, but also food, and the most important thing for daily life, salt, and fine, snow-white salt. As he watched all this, a sense of surprise slowly welled up inside him. "Where did you get all these wonderful things and such clean water, little sister?" Thinking about the changes that had taken place in his younger sister's family recently, he had some guesses in his mind, but he had no clue what they were. In the end, they simply made the entrance to the cellar even more concealed. "The most important thing my younger sister left behind was that map. It depicts the road to Suzhou Prefecture in great detail. Keep this safe, you never know when you might need it." Lu Mingui naturally knew that no matter how careful she was, these things would inevitably leave some clues. But when it comes to trusted family members, she feels she can handle the responsibility. Before leaving, she entrusted everything in her home to the Zhao family. The crops in the fields, and the vegetables in the yard that are not yet ripe. Aunt Zhao's eyes were red and swollen from crying. "Tell me, why did you have to go to that damn Suzhou Prefecture? No matter how tough it is here, it's still our home. Little sister, I really hate to see you go." Lu Mingui could only comfort her. "Maybe he'll come back someday. If you ask me, you should start making plans soon." Aunt Zhao shook her head. "How could it have come to this? Just hang in there a little longer, and maybe we'll get through it. Besides, I can't bear to part with these belongings. Going outside would make me a vagrant, it's not as secure as staying at home. Even if we can get a travel permit, what will we eat and drink when we go to other places? We don't even have a single skill. In the end, I still can't bear to part with my 2 daughters. They can't possibly bring their families with them and come with us. They say a married daughter is like water spilled from a bowl, but what mother wouldn't want to see her daughter often?" Lu Mingui shared the same sentiment and could only instruct, "My nephew lives in Guaoshang, Changzhou County, Suzhou Prefecture. If you ever need to go to Suzhou Prefecture, come and find me. I will definitely not let your family be homeless." Aunt Zhao was about to wipe away her tears again. "You gave me all your crops, and you still care about my future. This is my blessing." Actually, Aunt Zhao didn't expect that the 2 families, who were usually on good terms, would give away so much grain so easily. They didn't even mention it to Song Daji. It was all given directly to the Zhao family, and it was all agreed upon with Wang Lizhang beforehand, so it was perfectly legitimate. Even if Song Daji found out, there was nothing he could do. She brought up the matter of digging for wild vegetables again. "If it weren't for you these days, my family wouldn't have earned so many copper coins. Anyone could do these jobs, but you insisted on having Zhao Yuan and his brother do them. My whole family is grateful." "Oh, I'm not good with words, but anyway, little sister, I'll remember your kindness for the rest of my life." Lu Mingui also felt a pang of sadness, but she suppressed it. He simply said, "You've taken care of my family all these years, and you'll continue to look after it for me in the future. If I'm not good to you, who else should I be good to?" She only gave the Zhao family this grain, but did not provide salt or water. No matter how close she was to the Zhao family, there were many people in the family who could see through her, and she couldn't take the risk. The night before their departure, the family looked at the steamed buns, dumplings, and flatbreads they had recently made. It was packed full, wrapped in a clean cloth and placed there. Song Xiaoqiu said, "Mother, I don't know how many days this will last. I estimate it can last for half a month. I hope it doesn't go bad or spoil, otherwise it will be a waste." Lu Mingui said, "Don't worry, I'll keep it, it won't spoil." She could go to the market to buy food, but she was worried that something might happen and she wouldn't have time to buy it. It's best to be fully prepared and have backup plans for both scenarios to ensure peace of mind. After finishing everything and putting the children to sleep, the four adults were left at a loss for words. Shen Juya spoke first. "Today I went back to my parents' home to talk about the matter in Suzhou Prefecture and to say goodbye to them properly. Who would have thought they still hold a grudge against me? He still holds a grudge about not lending me money last time, and he's been treating me like dirt. You weren't even allowed to enter the door." She initially seemed a little sad, but then she became more and more relaxed. "I kowtowed to my parents at the door and then turned around and left. They didn't treat me like family, so they simply broke off the marriage." Lu Mingui sighed. There are mothers in this world who love their daughters, and there are mothers who don't treat their daughters like human beings. Fortunately, Shen Juya isn't heartbroken. Shen Juya asked again, "Mother, I've packed all my things, and there wasn't much in the house to begin with. Shall we leave tomorrow morning?" Lu Mingui was both amused and exasperated. "Why are you even more anxious than I am?" Shen Juya said matter-of-factly, "I believe what Mother says. Mother said there will be droughts and locusts in the future. Then we need to leave quickly and find a safe place so I can properly raise my 3 children. Mom, I'm not afraid of hardship or fatigue, I just want to see my 3 children grow up well." There was no fear of parting in her eyes, only longing for the future. Lu Mingui couldn't help but sigh. In the end, it was the children who made Shen Juya stand up. She nodded. "I'll leave first thing tomorrow morning. Before I leave, there is one more thing I want to tell you." As she spoke, she glanced at Song Xiaoqiu, who immediately straightened her back. She probably guessed what her mother was going to say. Lu Mingui then looked at the 3 of them with a serious expression. "Do you know where the meat, eggs, and sugar that we've been eating at home these past few days have come from?" Song Xiaodong perked up. He had already noticed it. Even if his mother kept going to town to sell wild vegetables, she couldn't buy such good refined rice and flour. "That salt as white as snow. Oh, and ginseng too. When my sister-in-law gave birth, my mother brought back a ginseng. A whole ginseng root. None of this is something our family can afford to use or eat." Shen Juya, however, was so focused on her child that she hadn't noticed the many changes at home. Upon hearing this, she blinked and asked, "What?" Lu Mingui wanted to laugh at her silly look, but she held it in. He continued, "What I'm about to say is something you must take to heart, but you must not say it aloud. No one can say it, it must remain buried inside forever." Although she trusts her children, she still needs to make things clear first. The 3 of them exchanged glances and all became serious. "Mother, please speak." "We will never tell anyone." Lu Mingui then said, "Mother had a strange encounter and obtained a square house. From this house, one can travel to another world. With this house, I was able to bring home so much food and supplies." Apart from Song Xiaoqiu, Song Xiaodong and Shen Juya felt like they were listening to gibberish. What kind of house? What kind of other world? Lu Mingui didn't explain much. She just told them so that they wouldn't be scared and scream if they suddenly saw her carrying food or supplies on the way to escape famine. Chapter 205 Confession. Lu Mingui ignored the shock or confusion on the faces of the others. She herself didn't know how she had encountered such a strange thing. It's strange, but it's a great thing. Right now, she is very calm. As the head of the family, if she doesn't say anything, no one can do anything to her. She continued, "I have place to put the large items in the house, such as the wooden chest and the bedding. Mom can put away all the heavy things like pots and pans. You only need to bring some clothes and bedding to make a show of it." Song Xiaoqiu nodded. No wonder her mother only told them to pack their things, but the family didn't even have an ox cart. Then she thought that what her mother had experienced was probably even more amazing than she had previously thought, which made her both excited and scared. What kind of house can you go to other places and still put things in? Where are the other places? She racked her brains but couldn't figure it out. Song Xiaodong's big eyes blinked, and after a long while, he finally found his voice. "Mother, I won't ask you anything else. I just want to know, if there's a place where we can buy food and supplies, why do we still need to flee from famine?" He wasn't particularly reluctant to leave the village. But if they can eat and drink their fill here, who would want to go to a strange place and start making a living again? Lu Mingui glanced at him. "Xiaodong, why don't we go back to studying? You already know some simple words, so reading shouldn't be difficult for you." Learning more knowledge will benefit you. Mother, Song Xiaodong said, embarrassed and annoyed. I'm not stupid. I can tell you're mocking me. Lu Mingui shook her head. Isn't that stupid? My mother had to dig up wild vegetables to earn money, and only with that money could she buy food. If there's a severe drought in the future, where will I find wild vegetables? Without wild vegetables, there will be no income, and where will I buy food? She knew that her son wasn't stupid either. Like Lu Erge and Aunt Zhao, Song Xiaodong always felt that the drought could have lasted so long. Maybe it will rain tomorrow. Only when the fields are all barren, the mountains are empty, and people have starved to death will they realize their mistake and regret their actions. Lu Mingui thought about it. She couldn't just tell everyone, hey, I've seen history, I know there will be a drought. Who would believe that? Some people might think the old woman is talking nonsense. Thinking of this, she also thought of her second brother, and suddenly felt so angry that her teeth itched. However, she privately instructed Lu Yongwen that if he saw anything amiss, he should kidnap his father, even if it meant tying him up. Song Xiaodong then slapped his forehead, realizing, that's right. Mother, there are far fewer wild vegetables on the mountain now. After receiving the wheat, many people suffered from poor harvests and went up the mountain to dig for wild vegetables. Zhao Yuan and I ran further and further away, and it was not easy to find wild vegetables. As the weather gets colder, there will probably be even fewer wild vegetables to find. We really need to get going. Lu Mingui nodded in satisfaction. It's good that you know. A few days ago, I tried and was able to bring the two little kids, Tu Antoine and Yuan, into that room. They didn't cry or make a fuss when they got to the White House, and they slept very soundly. But Man won't be able to get in. I reckon none of you will be able to get in. She herself wondered, I wonder if it's because I can remember things that I can't get in anymore. Last time, when Shen Juya wasn't paying attention, she tried to bring the two little children into the White House. This trip is really long. If we weren't so impatient, we would prefer to wait until Tu Antoine and Yuan are a little older before we go. But natural disasters wait for no one. She had originally planned that if the dolls couldn't fit inside, she would push them around on a flatbed cart, making sure the bottom was thick and the top was covered tightly. However, this also means they are inevitably exposed to wind and sun and experience bumpy rides. The children are too young, they can get sick from the slightest thing, and getting sick can be life-threatening. Fortunately, the dolls were able to enter the White House, which put her mind at ease. This is one of the reasons why she made up her mind to tell the story about the White House. Shen Juya is extremely protective of her child. If she saw that her child was missing, she would surely want to die. Letting her know will put her at ease. Shen Juya was indeed taken aback. Mother, how come I didn't know? When did this happen? Lu Mingui patted her hand. It happened just a few days ago. Don't worry, the child didn't suffer at all. It's much more comfortable than walking with us. It's just a pity for Man, she's so young, but she has to come with us all the way. Although Shen Juya was skeptical, she suppressed her worries and said, I'll carry it all on my back then. But mother, can you really put all these things and the two babies in that, where? Lu Mingui looked at the table, touched the wooden hairpin with one hand, and held the table in the other. In the blink of an eye, she had appeared in the White House with the table. Then he pushed open the door alone and returned to the main room. The barely perceptible spatial fluctuations went unnoticed by Song Xiaodong and the other two, yet the table in front of them vanished. His mother didn't move, but the table is gone. For some reason, all three of them felt a little weak in their calves. Shen Juya leaned against the wall and cried out, my mother. Lu Mingui glanced at her and said, your mother is right here. You don't need to shout so loudly. Shen Juya quickly covered her mouth, not daring to speak. Song Xiaoqiu, however, was somewhat excited. She reached out and touched the empty space, but there was nothing there. That's incredible. All right, that's all. I just wanted to tell you all, so don't make a fuss. Lu Mingui added, Mother, please put away everything you can later. Let's set off early tomorrow. Oh right, we can't put the big pot away yet. We'll cook dumplings tomorrow morning and then put it away. They say you need dumplings to mount a horse and noodles to dismount. Even though we don't have a horse, we still need to eat dumplings. Now everyone go and rest. But this was destined to be a sleepless night. None of them could sleep. The unknown road ahead and what their mother had just said made it impossible for them to fall asleep. Only Lu Mingui forced herself to fall asleep. She had been preparing for this day for more than half a year. More important than the reluctance to leave her homeland was figuring out how to navigate the path ahead. The rooster crowed 3 times, but it was still not dawn. Song Xiaoqiu had already gotten out of bed to start a fire and cook dumplings. By the time dawn broke, the Song family courtyard had already become lively. Everyone got up, tidied up and washed, and then ate the steaming dumplings. This breakfast not only gave them the energy to travel today, but also symbolized a good omen, hoping for a smooth journey. After the dumplings were finished, the large pot was washed clean and taken down from the stove. 2 old hens, tables, chairs, beds, wooden crates, all the family's belongings were thrown into the White House. The house was completely empty and desolate. Suppressing her reluctance, Lu Mingui thanked her neighbors who came to see her off. Aunt Zhao and her family made shoes for the Song family overnight. She said, "We're still using the fabric you gave us. Our shoes are going to wear out quite a few along the way." On the other side, the Wang family delivered freshly baked coarse flour pancakes, which surprised Lu Mingui. The Wang family was not having an easy time, and the 2 families had little contact in the past. "I didn't expect them to give me such a practical gift before I left." She decisively gestured to Song Xiaodong to slip a few copper coins into the hand of the Wang family's grandson. Chapter 206 Departure. Most villagers were unaware that the Song family was leaving and were still asking each other about it. Among the crowd, Song Daji was also unaware of this matter. He nudged the person in front of him curiously, "What are they doing?" Everyone was carrying a basket on their back, holding a burlap sack, and dragging their families along. They looked like they were begging for food. He even laughed as he spoke, saying, "This old house is no good. It's become like this since I left. His mother is stubborn too, why doesn't she come and beg him? He has money, so he can eat meat for them to see. Even if he doesn't give it to them, just watching it will satisfy their cravings." The villager who was disturbed by him was named Zhang San. He was very unhappy when he heard this. "When did this bad luck come? Why are you standing so close to me? Don't let them transfer their filth onto me." He glanced at Song Daji with disgust and stood a little further away. But after Song Daji kept asking, someone finally answered, "You don't know." He gave a mocking laugh. "Oh right, I forgot that your 2 families have severed ties. When it comes to severing ties with relatives, it's better to be neighbors than to sever ties with relatives. Severing ties with relatives makes you enemies, while neighbors get along better. Look at the Zhao and Wang families, they treat Aunt Lu very well." Another person said, "That's because Aunt Lu is a good person. It's said that she left all the crops in the fields to the Zhao family. The Wang family has always received a lot of help. Did you see what Xiaodong slipped into the Wang family's grandson's hand?" They talked back and forth until Song Daji's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot before they finally heard the answer. "Aunt Lu and her family are going to Suzhou Prefecture. I heard they have a relative in Suzhou Prefecture who is a truly wealthy man." Song Daji couldn't help but roll his eyes. Relatives in Suzhou Prefecture. How come I didn't know that? They even gave all the crops from their fields to the Zhao family. Has this old hag gone mad? If she's going to give something away, she should give it to me. He was about to rush up and chase after Lu Mingui, but the Zhao family members were not to be trifled with and would not run away from trouble. Zhao Da and several of his men surrounded Song Daji and beat him up. The villagers pretended not to see it, staring at the backs of Lu Mingui's family, each with their own thoughts. As Song Jie watched Lu Mingui's retreating figure, she felt a mix of emotions. Before she got married, she had met Song Chungye by chance, and then she had a crush on him. She asked her parents to find a matchmaker and go to the Song family. Unexpectedly, Song Chungye refused outright, saying he didn't want to get married too early, but a few days later he got engaged to Lu Mingui. Upon learning of this, Jie was furious and tried every means to marry into the second branch of the Song family. After marrying into the family, she realized that the 2 branches of the Song family did not interact often, and she had no chance to appear in front of Song Chungye. They could only watch from afar as Song Chungye and Lu Mingui showed their affection for each other. After Song Chungye died, Lu Mingui became a widow and raised several children on her own, living a hard life. Later, she also suffered from the mistreatment of Song Daji and his wife. She finally felt triumphant and extremely happy, thinking that she had finally surpassed Lu Mingui. In the blink of an eye, Lu Mingui decisively severed ties with Song Daji and kicked the whole family out of the old house. They brought the suffering children back. Although her second son died, Her second daughter-in-law gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. I thought Lu Mingui would just live like this, but unexpectedly, she abandoned everything and took her children to Suzhou Prefecture. This woman is so ruthless. She's willing to give up everything. Jay felt a mix of emotions. She spent half her life in a fit of pique, and now, looking at the empty courtyard of the Song family, she only feels heartache. Jay thought, perhaps Lu Mingui will never know these thoughts of hers. Lu Mingui naturally had no idea. Normally, she could sense Ji's malice, but she didn't think much of it. After all, the two families don't interact much. As they exited the village and walked onto the main road, they could see the Lu family waiting there in the distance. A tall, strong mule with a glossy coat was pulling a cart loaded with tools. The two sides greeted each other. Lu Wenli, Wang Shi, Lu Yongkong and Xinghua, and Lu's two grandsons named Lu Qing and Lu Happy, and the youngest granddaughter is Lu Huan. There weren't many people. Little sister, you've arrived. Lu Mingui nodded, then looked at the docile mule and asked, brother, is this the mule cart we talked about before? The mule looks good, but the cart is a bit old. Will it work well? Don't skimp on the money. The mule cart was purchased jointly by the two families. Lu Wenli laughed and said, it's not about saving money, it's about saving a little where we can. Don't let the age of the car fool you, it's actually a good piece of equipment. Look, the axles are covered with sheet metal, the shafts are made of sturdy elm wood, the whole body has no cracks, the wheels are smooth and there is no creaking sound. This car can last at least another 5 years. This mule is in its prime, its teeth look like it's 6 years old, and it's strong and muscular. It was a great buy. The seller originally wanted 30 taels, but we managed to bargain down to 26 taels. The mule cost 18 taels, and the cart cost 8 taels. Then, looking at Lu Mingui and her group, she asked in surprise, why did you take all these things? Don't you want your things at home anymore? Lu Mingui hadn't figured out what to say yet, and even if she were to say it, she couldn't say it here. So he could only vaguely say, I took everything I could, and left the rest behind. The villagers assumed the Lu family had taken the items with them first, but the Lu family thought Lu Mingui didn't want them anymore. Wang felt it was a bit of a pity. Are we just going to throw it away like that? We'll have to buy more then. Lu Mingui laughed and said, it's all right, carrying it all this way would be a hardship. Lu Yongkong then said, let Man and Huaner sit on the mule cart. Auntie, you can ride in the car with Tuantuan and Yuan in your arms. Lu Mingui shook her head. It's all right, I'll carry the baby, you guys walk ahead. Once the Lu family had walked ahead, Lu Mingui had already placed the two babies into the White House. There were cushions in the White House. The two babies can't roll over yet, and most of the time they just lie there sleeping. Even so, Lu Mingui would still occasionally go into the White House for a quick look. If she wets herself, change her diaper, if she's hungry, take her out and feed her. However, all of this will likely be exposed to the eldest brother's family sooner or later. Lu Mingui was mentally prepared. Shen Juya, on the other hand, was very worried about the two missing children and panicked. So Lu Mingui took the baby out again, and this was repeated several times before Shen Juya finally felt relieved. Today is the first day of everyone's journey, and the excitement outweighs the fatigue. At first, the children were still chattering away, but in the end, Lu Huan and Man fell asleep together. Chapter 207 Day 1. Dust filled the air. This road is not an official road, so there aren't many people on it. The fields on both sides of the road are almost ready for harvest, and the grass by the roadside is curled up due to the drought. There was still a faint trace of green on the distant mountains. Perhaps this is why many people are still unwilling to leave. At noon, everyone ate the flatbread brought by the Lu family, along with pickled vegetables and boiled eggs. The water was pure water that Lu Mingui had poured into the water bag beforehand, which was refreshing and thirst-quenching. After lunch, they rested for a while before continuing their journey. They walked 40 li that day. If they had all been adults, they probably would have walked even further. However, Lu Mingui considered that there were still several children, and even if they took turns riding in the mule cart, it would still be too tiring. By nightfall, the family had arrived in Enzhou. Little sister, why don't you stay here tonight? Lu Wenli asked, should we find a fellow villager's house to stay at? He pointed to a village not far away. There's a manor there. Lu Mingui glanced at it, but still shook his head. Brother, it's best not to get involved. It's not too cold today, so at night the children sleep on the mule cart and we adults rest around it. Lu Wenli looked at the fully loaded mule carts and felt somewhat troubled. It's fine to let 2 children ride in the mule cart during the day, but if the children have to sleep on the mule cart at night, all the equipment has to be unloaded, and then piled back on and tied up again the next day, which is too much trouble. Lu Mingui said, let's take it off first, I have a way. Soon, tables, chairs, pots and pans were all moved down. The mule cart was covered with thick bedding, and the 4 children squeezed together, leaving room for an adult to sleep. The men naturally refused to sleep on the mule cart, so Wang and Xinghua let Lu Mingui sleep there. Xiaochu and Zhu Yi also told Lu Mingui to go to sleep. Lu Mingui also refused. She could rest in the White House, so why should she occupy such a comfortable place? After much polite back and forth, they finally decided to take turns sleeping. This was the first night, so the eldest woman, Wang, was allowed to sleep there. The group gathered firewood nearby and lit a campfire. Lu Mingui pulled Lu Wenli aside and whispered, brother, don't be afraid of what I'm about to say. Lu Wenli looked puzzled. He was already at the age of 50, what was there to be afraid of? He immediately smiled and nodded. Even if you say this wasteland is haunted, I'm not afraid. Lu Mingui then spoke, her voice slow and gentle, brother, actually, I've died once before. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Wenli slipped and fell to the ground. He sat on the ground, looking up at Lu Mingui's face, which appeared to be a living person in the firelight. Little sister, what are you saying? Don't scare your big brother. Lu Mingui laughed and said, didn't you say you weren't afraid? If you're not afraid, why would you be so scared that you fall? However, it's normal to be afraid. When I came back to life, I was scared half to death. Although she was smiling, her eyes were full of seriousness. Lu Wenli stared at her blankly, and inexplicably believed her. The girl in front of him is his younger sister, whom he has raised since childhood. My mother passed away early, and my father was a poor scholar who was not good at this or that. He had to support the family on his own. He also raised his younger brother and sister. Even if his younger sister had actually come back to life, or even if she had become a ghost and stood in front of him, he would only be angry. Why would his sister, who was 7 years younger than him, be walking ahead of him? He laughed awkwardly and explained, I didn't fall because I was scared, it was because the ground was slippery, maybe it was frosty. Don't talk nonsense, it's not frost season yet. Lu Mingui exposed her, and then said, I really did die once, and I was killed by Song Daji. She recounted her experiences fleeing famine in her previous life. This was the first time she had talked about this with someone else, and she was much calmer than she had imagined. Perhaps it's because time has passed, but compared to the fear, disbelief, anger, and other complex emotions she felt when she first woke up, she is now completely at peace. But Lu Wenli reacted like an angry old beast. Song Daji, that beast, how could he do such a thing? Little sister, you've suffered so much. Why didn't you say so sooner? I'm going back right now to kill that little brat. He paced back and forth, glancing again in the direction of his hometown, filled with deep regret. At that time, Yang Kong said he wanted to teach Song Daji a lesson, but I actually dissuaded him. No, I have to go and kill him while we're still not too far away. Lu Mingui felt a warmth in her heart. Her older brother was indeed not afraid of her, he would only think that Song Daji was a beast. However, she still reached out and grabbed him, saying, brother, it's all right. People like Song Daji won't have an easy time. Now, I'm going to say the important part. After being brought back to life, I encountered some strange things. I got a house that can hold a lot of things, so you see, we're just carrying baskets today, it looks like we're not carrying much. Actually, everything was put into that unseen room. Lu Wenli's eyes widened. He had initially believed it, but upon hearing about the house, he felt it was too far-fetched. He asked, little sister, I feel like you're talking nonsense. Are you just being lazy like you were when you were a kid, refusing to memorize things and trying to fool me with this excuse? He comforted them, saying, if you don't want those things at home, you can just buy some more when you get to Suzhou. Then our 2 families will join forces and share our things. Lu Mingui said, this isn't nonsense, you'll see for yourself. Before Lu Wenli could even speak or blink, he saw his sister holding several steaming hot buns. He might not believe it if the buns were cold, but these steaming hot buns looked like they were just taken out of the big pot. Hiss! He gasped sharply, what kind of divine power is this? Does such a divine object truly exist in this world? Little sister, do you remember the storybooks I used to read to you? It's called Investiture of the Gods. The immortal Yu Yuan has a Ruyi Chenkin bag that can hold external objects. Could it be that you also obtained the Ruyi Chenkin bag? Perhaps your Chenkin bag is even more powerful, capable of storing objects out of thin air. At this moment, Lu Mingui also thought of the Ruyi Chenkin bag, a magical object described in storybooks, but what she was touching was a wooden hairpin, which was different from the Chenkin bag. Moreover, not only can it store items, but it can also travel to the future. However, she didn't say much to her older brother, and nodded, yes, that's right. It can not only store external objects, but I can also go inside myself. Then, with a hint of regret, she said, I've tried, and I can bring both of my kids, Tu Antoine and Yuan Yuan, inside, and even my 2 old hens at home can fit inside. But even adults can't get in, and even little kids like Man can't get in. If everyone could get in, at least we'd all have a place to rest at night. Lu Wenli, however, disregarded all of that and excitedly said, Little sister, I knew you were no ordinary person. The night you were born, the osmanthus tree in the yard suddenly bloomed. The fragrance carried far and wide. Chapter 208 Night Watch. Lu Mingui was both amused and exasperated. Brother, do you think I don't know who I am? I'm just an ordinary old woman. I'm old, and being able to live again is already a blessing from God. I only hope that I can have enough to eat and wear for the rest of my life, and that my children can all be well. I don't ask for anything else. That's exactly what she thought. Being able to live again was already a blessing from her past life. Lu Wenli wholeheartedly agreed. When you get old, isn't this exactly what you're hoping for? It's rare to find someone with such composure, able to remain so calm even when faced with such an opportunity. If it were someone else. He didn't continue, saying that if it were someone else, they might not even know how they died. After thinking for a moment, he asked again, does anyone else know about this? If others find out, it won't be a good thing. This matter is too bizarre. If it were to come to the attention of those with ulterior motives, it would surely attract their covetousness. Don't worry, big brother. I just talked to Xiao Chu and the others about it last night. Lu Mingui shook her head and said, Brother, will you blame me for keeping this a secret for so long? Lu Wenli laughed at this. What are you talking about? This was your destiny, and your willingness to tell your elder brother shows your trust in him. Do you think my older brother is the kind of unreasonable person? He added, don't tell anyone else about this. I'll cover for you with your sister-in-law and Yongkong. Lu Mingui, however, felt that the secret couldn't be kept for long. If you can fool outsiders, can you fool your family? We've been eating and sleeping together all this way, so I'm afraid we can't keep it a secret any longer. Lu Wenli said, if we can't hide it, we won't say anything. Let them guess. Lu Mingui chuckled. You can do that. Fine, it's settled then. Let them be. He added, that house also has a magical feature. Things are exactly the same when they are put in and when they are taken out. And it can hold a lot of things, so I thought I'd put all my belongings in there. The children will take the bus tomorrow, and my sister-in-law is not feeling well, so she will also take the bus. We can take turns riding in the car, which will make the journey easier and less tiring. Lu Wenli agreed. The moon climbed high in the sky. The mule lay quietly resting, clearly indicating that although the place was unfamiliar to it, it posed no danger. Lu Wenli and his son, along with Song Xiaodong, took turns keeping watch at night. The woman and children were asleep. Lu Mingui then entered the White House, took Tu Antoine and Yuan Yuan in her arms, and went into the Guanlin residence. Unlike a vegetable market, Guanlin residence can only be entered during the day. It's extremely convenient that you can enter anytime. I had just put the child on the sofa when the door was opened from the outside. Lu Mingui wasn't surprised. Who else could get in like this but Lu Yunxi? The password to the door was something he had personally told Lu Yunxi. The other person who knew the password was Li Ziyan, but that kid almost never came. The person who arrived was indeed Lu Yunxi. She came in carrying 2 large bags and met Lu Mingui. Just as she was about to speak, she caught sight of the sleeping child on the sofa and immediately fell silent. After putting down 2 large bags, Lu Yunxi tiptoed toward the sofa. She stared in astonishment at the 2 almost identical children. These 2 babies are only a few months old, right? She remembered her ancestors saying that they had twin grandchildren, but this was the first time she had seen the children. It's all pink and tender, so pretty. The 2 babies are sleeping soundly, their little mouths pursed up as if they're drinking milk. How can she be so cute? Lu Yunxi watched for a while, then felt an itch to hold him and play with him for a bit. However, it's best not to hold the child once they're asleep. I wonder which of these two children will be the ancestor of the Lu family. All she remembered was that her ancestors said the knowledge should be passed down to daughters, not sons, so it was this little girl. Or is it someone else? It's still too early to know, so she didn't feel comfortable asking. Lu Mingui chuckled and asked, "Why are you here?" Then I thought, since the ancestors brought the child in, it means the family has already started fleeing the famine. She remembered that the late Ming Dynasty was during the Little Ice Age, and the temperature wouldn't be too high, so should she buy them sleeping bags? With a sleeping bag, I feel much safer at night and won't get cold. Speaking of catching a cold, you should also prepare cold medicine and the like. Just as she was thinking this, Lu Mingui smiled and asked her softly, "Why are you here? And you're carrying so much stuff?" Lu Yunxi replied softly in return, "We haven't bought the bedding yet, have we? These are quilts, these are silk quilts, thin ones, for summer use. These are down comforters, to use when it gets cold. Although there is underfloor heating in the house, we don't need it for the time being, but we'll prepare it in advance." He then pointed to the two children on the sofa. "These must be your grandchildren, right? They're so cute. But sleeping on the sofa is not an option. What if he rolls over and falls down?" Lu Mingui laughed and said, "It's only been 3 months, how could you possibly turn things around?" She knew that while her two children could now tilt their heads back high when lying on their stomachs, it would take some time before they could roll over. But Lu Yunxi was worried, what if he fell? "No, I'll go buy a crib. Is there anything else you need? Do you need a baby bottle? And some diapers too. These clothes aren't soft enough, we need to change them." Lu Mingui looked bewildered, and before she could even ask, Lu Yunxi had already rushed off. "Hey, you, why are you running so fast?" Lu Mingui looked at the down comforter she had left behind, made the bed, put Tu Antoine and Yuan Yuan on the bed, and then lay down on the bed and closed her eyes. Walking like this all day is really exhausting. Half asleep, Tu Antoine and Yuan Yuan started crying. Lu Mingui woke up with a start, still lying in bed. She looked at the children and knew they were hungry. So he took the two children and went out to find Shen Juya. It wasn't complicated at all. After touching the hairpin, I appeared on the outskirts ofEnzhou in the Ming Dynasty, right next to the mule cart. Lu Mingui was confident. She had discovered long ago that the place she returned from the future was the same as the place she entered, so choosing a safe place was very important. She woke Shen Juya up, and only handed the child to her when Shen Juya was a little more awake. While the two children were drinking milk, she went to the fire. "Xiaodong, is it your turn to keep watch? What time is it?" Song Xiaodong stared blankly at the fire, then yawned and said, "It's almost midnight." Lu Mingui nodded. "Go to sleep, mother will come to check on you for a while." Song Xiaodong shook her head. "No need, I'm not sleepy, mother, go to sleep." Lu Mingui looked at his still childish face. Mother has already taken a nap and is feeling quite energetic. Because of the time difference between the two, she had actually slept for 2 or 3 hours, so she wasn't sleepy at the moment. Song Xiaodong stared at his mother, who was indeed full of energy. He then went to sleep. Lu Mingui added 2 more pieces of firewood to the fire. Chapter 209 Lying. After Shen Juya finished feeding them, Tu Antoine and Yuan Yuan fell asleep again with their eyes closed. That's how kids this age are, they're always sleeping. Lu Mingui then carefully brought the child back into Guanlin residence and put him back on the bed as before. Then he came out to keep watch again. Shen Juya was still awake and said apologetically, "Mother, it should have been me taking care of the child. But now I always have to trouble you. Look at me these days, I've been eating and sleeping all the time, and I've gained quite a bit of weight." Lu Mingui hurriedly urged her to rest. "Why are you saying such things when we're family? Besides, where am I fat? I've been traveling a lot lately, just you wait and see, I'll definitely lose weight. Go to sleep, we have to travel tomorrow." Shen Juya then lay down next to Song Xiaoqiu, and the two sisters-in-law curled up together to sleep. Lu Mingui continued her night watch. She was in excellent spirits, with a bow and arrows and a flamethrower beside her. As the moon set, Lu Wenli woke up. "Little sister, why are you on night watch? Why didn't you wake me up?" "I'm up, you should go back to sleep." Lu Mingui wasn't tired. Pointing to the pile of belongings, she said, "Since I have nothing else to do, I'll put all of this away. Leave some bedding, water bags, and an iron pot outside." Before Lu Wenli could react, he saw that the tables, chairs, boxes, and miscellaneous items that had been piled up next to him had all disappeared. Only the deep imprints on the grass showed that many objects were once piled up here. Seeing so many things disappear with his own eyes, Lu Wenli was speechless for a long time before finally exhaling, this is really, truly miraculous. Are they really all packed in? Lu Mingui nodded. They've all been packed in. Take it out when you need it. If you don't need it on the way, take it out when you get to Suzhou. Brother, you'd better think about how to explain this to your wife after dawn. I'm going to rest first. She left the mess to Lu Wenli and went back to Guanlin residence to rest. This time I slept for another 2 hours. The sky above the Ming Dynasty was beginning to lighten. Wang was the first to open her eyes. Looking around, she saw nothing but emptiness and felt as if the sky was about to collapse. In a panic, she woke everyone up and asked, "Where are our things? We've been robbed. Quickly, get up, everyone. There's nothing left. Good heavens, who is it that's suffering?" Just as Wang was about to utter some curse that would bring her heavenly thunder and lightning, Lu Wenli quickly covered her mouth. Shut up. The Wang family, on the other hand, quieted down. But there are others. Zhao Xinghua had a very loud voice. With her hands on her hips, she roared, "Which heartless bastard is it? How dare they? Shut up too." Lu Wenli couldn't cover Zhao Xinghua's mouth, so he could only scold her harshly. They quickly added, "Nothing's missing. Don't ask about it anymore." Anyway, nothing was lost. As the head of the family, and with his firm attitude, the Lu family members all looked hesitant. Only the Song family seemed to have guessed the truth. Their mother must have put the things away. But Lu Wenli's words clearly failed to convince the group. To them, these were all their family's treasures. Can you just say you're not going to care and then ignore it? Lu Yongkang couldn't help but ask, "Dad, the things aren't lost. Then where did they go?" Most of their belongings were gone, leaving only bedding and the like. How can we not be in a hurry? Seeing that his elder brother's words failed to convince everyone, Lu Mingui had no choice but to step forward and explain. It's like this, actually, when your father was on night watch, he encountered a caravan heading to Suzhou Prefecture. When the caravan saw that our family consisted of the elderly and weak, and heard that we were going to Suzhou Prefecture, they offered to help us carry our goods over. We'll go get it back then. Yes. Lu Wenli breathed a sigh of relief and nodded in agreement. His younger sister was much quicker-witted and better at making things up than he was. But Lu Yongkang still didn't believe it and pressed for an answer. Did someone really pass by and take things away? Then why didn't I hear a single sound at night? Song Xiaoqiu suddenly stood up and said, "Cousin, I heard it. It was a caravan that just happened to be passing by." As he spoke, he nudged Song Xiaodong, who immediately understood and replied, "Yes, I saw it too, that's how it is." Several caravans, all strong men, moved away quietly. Although this statement was full of flaws, it was clear that everyone said so Lu Yongkang naturally believed it. Otherwise, how do you explain the disappearance of belongings? He patted his head, somewhat annoyed. I must have been sleeping too soundly. Sigh, you should have woken me up. Who knows if this caravan is trustworthy? One lie can make 100 more. Lu Mingui had no choice but to continue. It should be believable. Think about it, we cherish these things at home, but what use are they to outsiders? Even a ruined family can be worth a fortune, but that's only true for one's own family. But to others, they are nothing but junk. Lu Yongkang thought about it and agreed, saying, "That's a good idea. It's much easier to travel during the day. The mule cart can seat 4 or 5 people. When the time comes, aunt, father and mother, you can all ride on the cart." Wang then said, "Let Juya sit down, she's still breastfeeding her child." Shen Juya was hiding behind the mule cart, breastfeeding Tuantuan and Yuan Yuan. Afraid of waking the children, she didn't dare to loudly refuse. The matter was thus dropped. The two families continued their journey as usual during the day. According to the map, today we need to travel fromEnzhou to Renchou. The children all got on the mule cart. The eldest, Lu Qing, is already 10 years old and has not been riding in the car all the time. The others also took turns getting on the bus to rest. The journey was smooth, and after everyone rested in the evening, Lu Mingui went to Guanlin residence. Lu Yunxi also arrived. She was carrying large and small bags, with Li Ziyan following behind her, and driver Xiao Lu following behind as well. Xiao Lu was wondering to himself that he had been sending a lot of things here these past 2 days, mostly baby and toddler products. But I've never heard of anyone in the Li family getting married or having children. He glanced at Li Ziyan furtively, wondering if he was Li Xiao's illegitimate son left outside. These rich people are something else. If you have a child, why not get married right away and keep it outside the marriage? Lu Yunxi said to Xiao Lu, just put the things down, you can go home now. I'll have Ziyan take me home later. Li Ziyan was completely unaware that he was being secretly targeted by crickets. He looked helpless. Mom, you like children so much, why don't you have one yourself? They keep pulling me in to be a conscript, how can I possibly have that much free time? Lu Yunxi angrily retorted, give birth. How could I possibly give birth? You brat, you whine and complain when I ask you to do something. Don't waste time, just put the crib over there. These rattles and plush toys need to be set up and hung where the baby can see them. 2 cribs were placed in the living room, one pink and one blue, and they were exactly the same except for the color. Lu Yunxi continued to instruct her son on the work. First, lay out the quilts. This light blue set is round. Give that light yellow set to Yuan Yuan. Oh, right, we need to check to make sure there's nothing sharp or hard. Baby's skin is delicate and can't handle those. Li Ziyan was assembling toys when he heard this. He straightened up, looking very dissatisfied. Mom, were you this attentive to me and my sister back then? Lu Yunxi retorted stubbornly, I was young back then, how could I have any experience? Besides, don't we have a nanny at home? Chapter 210 Taking Care of a Baby. Li Ziyan had no choice but to accept his fate and get to work. Once all the toys on the crib were assembled, he exclaimed, the toys are all assembled. Mom, I'm afraid to hold the babies. Please take them to the crib. Lu Yunxi was also worried about him, so she quickly and gently carried Tuantuan and Yuan Yuan from the sofa to their respective beds. The 2 children were quiet, neither crying nor making a fuss, just watching everything with curiosity. Alright, now you don't have to worry about turning things around. Tuantuan, be good. After you hug Yuan Yuan, I'll hug you too. Her face was full of loving kindness, which gave Li Ziyan goosebumps. Mom, how can you tell Tuantuan and Yuan Yuan apart? They look the same to me. He suddenly realized something and asked, Mom, could these 2 be my younger brother and sister? We're going abroad all this time, actually to give birth. Let me check if someone in their 50s can still have a child. Does this mean I have another younger brother or sister? These words infuriated Lu Yunxi, and she grabbed Li Ziyan's ear and slapped him, yelling, you brat. You're talking nonsense. I think you deserve a beating. Without any hesitation, he gave Li Ziyan a good beating on the back. Poor Li Ziyan, a tall man of 1.85 meters, was beaten so badly that he cowered on the sofa, too afraid to move. It doesn't hurt anyway, so let his mom hit him. But he still had to act cheeky. Mom, with all this muscle, doesn't your hand hurt? Don't tell my dad if it hurts. This is what Lu Mingui saw when she came in. She found it amusing. The mother and son had a really good relationship. It seems different from the Ming Dynasty, which emphasized the 3 cardinal guides and 5 constant virtues, while this place seems to be more egalitarian. Lu Yunxi noticed her and immediately stopped. Li Ziyan thought he had been beaten too badly, which was why he hadn't heard Lu Mingui open and close the door. He seized the opportunity to complain. Auntie, did you see that? My mom is that ruthless. You still trust her to look after the kids? Lu Yunxi hit him again. You brat, if you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll beat you up again. Lu Mingui laughed uncontrollably and tried to smooth things over, saying, stop hitting each other, stop hitting each other. Be careful, or your hands will hurt. Lu Yunxi said to her son triumphantly, see. The old lady is worried about me. Li Ziyan pouted and huddled on the sofa, looking as aggrieved as a 200-pound child. Lu Yunxi then pulled her to look at the crib. Grandma, come and see the crib I bought for Tuantuan and Yuan Yuan. Then she complained, this house is too small. Look, once we put 2 cribs in, there's no room left. Why don't you move next door? There's plenty of space there. Lu Mingui shook her head repeatedly. No need, no need. Actually, it's fine, it fits perfectly here. She touched the crib and all the toys on it, finding them very interesting. These are all for children to play with. They're quite ingenious. This looks like a rattle drum. And what is this? It's so colorful and pretty. Lu Yunxi explained, this is a bell, the sound is not loud and not harsh. These colors and sounds are designed specifically for infants and toddlers. Visual tracking, auditory stimulation, and grasping exercises are best suited for babies as young as 3 months old. As she spoke, she placed the bell beside Yuan Yuan's hand. Yuan Yuan immediately reached out and grabbed it, holding on tightly and refusing to let go. There were several shallow dimples on the back of her chubby hand. Lu Yunxi praised, "Wow, our Yuan is really amazing, her little hands are so strong." Yuan then made, "Ee-ee-ee-ya-ya," sounds at her, which almost melted her heart. On the other side, Tuantuan stared intently at the spinning toy with her big, bright eyes. Lu Yunxi looked at them from both sides and thought, I like both kids. "Grandma, let me take care of the baby for you. I'll come over every day." "Oh, right, I also bought baby bottles and formula." Lu Mingui saw her take out 2 transparent glass bottles, with a piece of plastic on top of them. She pinched her skin, it was extremely soft and bouncy, with small holes on it. Lu Yunxi knew that this was the ancestor researching baby bottles. She quickly explained, "This is a glass bottle, and the nipple is made of silicone, so it's very safe." Lu Mingui nodded. She had seen some people use baby bottles before, but they didn't look like these, and they didn't have these so-called silicone nipples. She said, "Oh dear, let's not waste any money. Actually, these are unnecessary. My daughter-in-law has plenty of breast milk." Lu Yunxi chuckled inwardly, knowing that the ancestor was unaware of this yet. Her daughter-in-law doesn't need it now, but she'll soon need these things because she won't have any soup or broth to drink on the way out of famine. She pretended not to hear and continued, holding the formula, "This is formula for babies under 6 months old. When preparing formula, the water temperature should not be high, it should be between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius. For a child this age, each time I put in 5 scoops of formula and 150 milliliters of warm water. It's a ratio of 1 scoop of milk powder to 30 milliliters of warm water. It can't be too much or too little. If it's too strong, the baby will feel uncomfortable. If it's too weak, the baby will get hungry quickly. Look, there are markings on this. By the way, you must add water first, then add milk powder." Although Lu Mingui felt it was unnecessary, she still listened attentively. However, questions remained. What is this milk powder made of? Can it be better than their mother's? Lu Yunxi had also considered this. It's not that it's better, but rather that it's more convenient. "In my opinion, breast milk is better." Lu Mingui nodded, understanding. Feeding formula was a temporary measure, they had no other choice but to feed formula. The two played with the child for a while longer. Li Ziyan left first, taking with him the trash and packaging bags left after dismantling various toys and baby products. Seeing that Lu Mingui was tired, Lu Yunxi advised, "Grandma, why don't you take a bath and then get some sleep? I'll look after the 2 children." This time, it was Lu Mingui's turn to feel embarrassed. She asked, "How much are these?" "I'll give you the money. I was going to make you some dumplings and cook something for you, but I haven't gotten around to it yet." She was busy preparing things and fleeing the famine, but she did make dumplings to eat on the road. However, the dumplings weren't fancy enough, so she was too embarrassed to bring them with her. But Lu Yunxi wasn't really that greedy. The reason she suggested that Lu Mingui make dumplings was actually an excuse to avoid Lu Mingui refusing to accept her gift. She quickly reassured him, "What's wrong with that? I just love children, but unfortunately, I don't have any at home. Tuan and Yuan are so cute. Just looking at them makes me happy." A good mood leads to good health. Lu Mingui thought for a moment and said, "If you don't mind, how about letting the 2 children recognize you as their godmother?"